Hello, it's a Friday! Oh yes, it's a Friday, of course. It's the 5th day of the week. And like it or not, we celebrate Fridays. It initiates, or they initiate, the start to the weekend. Though, for some of us, sometimes the weekends are more busy than the weekdays. But you've taken the time to join us this morning, and boy, are we appreciative. My name is Benjamin Akako. I do this together with Sweetie Abochi. Welcome aboard what we call the AM Show. Shortly, I'll be serving you the news, and right after that, guess who join us for the news review? Three of them. Prof Isaac Bwedi is Dean Accounting and Finance at the UPSA. Kwame Nkrumah General Secretary of the CPP. Andrew Appiah-Dankwa is a legal practitioner and member of the Movement for Change. All three of them will box them into our news review. As you know how we do it, it's going to be butu, 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 butu. And after that, near the Agro Kakra also, Haruna Mubarak will be helping us serve you sports. And then we segue into our big stories. This morning, we take a look at the new face of parliamentary leadership when it comes to the National Democratic Congress. Of course, spearheaded by the Boku Central legislator, Mahama Ayariga. But staying in parliament, the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, has said, President Mahama, just apologize to Ghanaians and go beyond 60 ministers, because that is what is politically practical. But the question is, will the president bow to this pressure? He has promised 60, and he says he will stick to 60. In fact, the latest rhetoric is that some ministries will not have deputies. Is the minority justified in this call? That's the question we ask this morning. We're going to be contemplating that with our guests. And of course, as we digest those, after our big stories, guess who will be serving you blunt thoughts? Yours truly, moi. I'll be doing that courtesy of everything we've put together just to inform you. So stick and stay with us. Share your thoughts. Let's know what's on your mind via social media, the stream, and also when we activate the phone lines. But for now, settle down. Let me serve you the news up next. Thank you for staying. Welcome to the News Belt on the AM Show. And it's official. Boku Central legislator Mahama Ayariga has officially assumed the only black seat in the majority pews of Parliament. Mahama Ayariga has taken over from Dr. Cassiel Attoforsen, who is the new finance minister, as the majority leader. The NDC has reconstituted its front benches following the appointment of 4 out of the 5 leaders as ministers. In a letter addressed to the Speaker, General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Fiavikwete, informed the Speaker about the changes. Here's the Speaker reading the communication on the floor of Parliament.
In accordance with the established parliamentary procedures and practice, I write to formally inform you of the selection of the leaders of the Majority Caucus for the 9th Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Pursuant to this, and following extensive deliberation by the National Executive Committee and in consultation with the NDC Majority Caucus, we have designated the following honorable members to the leadership positions on the majority front bench. 1. Majority Leader, Honorable Mahama Ayariga, MP for Boku Central. 2. Deputy Majority Leader, Honorable George Kweku Ricketts Hagan, MP for Cape Coast South. 3. Majority Chief Whip, Honorable Roxton Nelson Kwame Eche Dafiamapo, MP for South Dai. 4. First Deputy Majority Whip, Honorable Comfort Doyo Kujo, MP for Adan, And 5, Second Deputy Majority Whip, Honorable Richard Achampon, MP for Bia East.
Now, the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, urged the new leadership to prioritize consensus building.
People don't know how great our friendship is, but you were always getting under my skin. And I know now, as a minister, our political fight will take a different form. This time, you'd have to come and defend your government policy. To the incoming team, led by my senior at the bar, my respected colleague, Mahama Ayariga. We served together in ECOWAS Parliament. You were very supportive. You've earned the respect of your colleagues in the sub-region. I know that you built consensus. In fact, Honorable Ayariga, there's something I've learned from you and I want to share. You don't mind how long it takes to negotiate to bring peace. And that I've learned with a great deal of respect. I believe that even as majority leader, you will not assume that you have the numbers. So you have to railroad matters on this House floor. I pray that you continue with that skill so that together we ensure the peace of this House by assisting Mr. Speaker.
Meanwhile, new majority leader Mahama Ayariga is promising to carry the NPP along despite its very small numbers.
I'm thankful for the confidence reposed in me, fully aware that this is an onerous role. I intend to discharge it to the best of my ability. Our duty as legislators is to ensure that we do all we can for the betterment of the people of Ghana. As leaders of the House, as a leader of the House, I have an abiding duty to ensure that we always stand on the side of Ghanaians. Right, Honorable Speaker, this is my charge to keep and a duty I will faithfully discharge. As leader of the House, I am committed to working hard to ensure that members work in an environment that is more conducive, convenient, and friendly. We are the representatives of the people of Ghana for a reason. Let us always be guided by this, that way we will carve a place for ourselves in the annals of our dear country.
And Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin has called on President John Mahama to apologize to Ghanaians and appoint more than 60 ministers. It will be recalled that on the campaign trail, the then NDC's flag bearer and now president promised to appoint not more than 60 ministers. This is a promise he has affirmed he will stick to. Speaking on the floor of Parliament during the debate on the approval of ministers, Alexander Afenyo-Markin insisted that it would be hard to govern with 60 ministers, urging the president to honestly apologize to Ghanaians and appoint more ministers.
When we make mistakes, let's admit them and apologize. 60 ministers will not help your political cause. But when civil society comes out with the narrative, as if everything is done by the political class, instead of us boldly explaining to them the intricacies of politics, then we also fall for the trap and we make political commitment. I don't doubt the competence of Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim, but that huge ministry local government and chieftaincy, all these conflicts, the behind the scenes, negotiations for peace and local governance. Mr. Speaker, I am not the president, but if I were to advise Mr. President, I would say, Mr. President, you can apologize to Ghanaians and say, look, you underestimated the thing. I think I need to engage more ministers. Because, Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow this. And the civil servant, what people have forgotten is that as you put two ministries together, the staffers are the same. All the civil servants who are there, they remain same. And then you say only one minister to supervise and monitor. Things will soon get out of hand, and you take the collateral damage. And then they say there's corruption.
Well, let's stay on the political terrain as the Supreme Court has adjourned indefinitely two separate cases involving the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party, as both parties failed to serve the suits on each other. In the first case, the NPP filed a suit asking the Supreme Court to overturn an injunction secured by the NDC on the already declared Akwatia elections. The other case is the NDC's suit against an Accra High Court's ruling which allowed for the collation of Tema Central, Okaigwe Central, Techiman South, and Ablekuma North results. But there was a surprising turn of events in court when it emerged that both parties had failed to serve the writs on each other. James Aveji has details from the court.
Parliamentary candidate for the NDC in the Akwatia constituency, Henry Boachi Yadom, on 31st December 2024 filed an election petition case at the High Court in Koforidua and sought for an interim injunction to prevent the swearing-in of the NPP's candidate, Ernest Kumi. This was after the Electoral Commission declared Ernest Kumi winner of the Akwatia constituency elections. The court on January 2 granted the injunction application. The NPP subsequently filed a case at the Supreme Court asking the Apex Court to overturn the decision. Despite pending determination of the matter, the Electoral Commission went ahead to gazette Ernest Kumi among 274 others as MP-elect and subsequently sworn in by Parliament on January 7. When the case was called in court, the Supreme Court revealed that the court's records indicate that the NPP has failed to serve the suit on the NDC. The court proceeded to adjourn the case indefinitely. Here's Director of Legals for the NPP, Gary Nimako.
It was filed on 31st of December 2024. The court of action has not accrued. But the court decided not to, hear the prayer of Mr. Kumi, and then proceeded to say that, well, there is a publication by Dr. Bosuma Asare in the media. So we relied on the publication to say that there is Gazette. Well, as a matter of fact, we now all know that Gazette was done on the 6th of January 2025. So we are simply saying that what the court did was wrongful. So the Supreme Court should question what the court has done and then prohibit the judge from hearing any case involving Ernest Kumi.
The Supreme Court, in a separate matter but in the same fashion, also adjourned indefinitely the National Democratic Congress's case against the coalition of Tema Central, Okaigwe Central, Techiman South, and Ablekuma North indefinitely. The NDC filed a case seeking to overturn the decision of an Accra High Court which granted a mandamus application filed by the NPP, which allowed for the collation and declaration of Okaigwe Central, Tema Central, and Techiman South result, with Ablekuma North yet to be determined. Both parties are expected to serve each other before the cases could continue. From the Supreme Court in Accra, I am James Aveji for Joy News.
Well, let's turn our attention to illegal mining now, as 2 persons have died and 1 is in critical condition in a renewed illegal mining siege on the Tano Area Forest Reserve in the Awe municipality of the Western region. Joy News can confirm the 2 groups who have laid siege on the forest on Wednesday engaged in a fight leading to the deaths of 2, and 1 is in critical condition with severe gunshot wounds. The armed groups led by known political activists have taken over the biodiversity area and are mining illegally since power changed hands, threatening the lives of forestry officials and concessionaires. Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko now reports.
The Tanwanya Forest Reserve was invaded early last year by known political actors in the Ahowin municipality, spearheaded by armed thugs. Clean Jobs, the company with a legal concession in the area, has been teaming up with the Forestry Commission to ward off the illegal miners, preventing full-scale destruction of the reserve. But after a momentary respite following a change in power, two armed groups have taken over, laying siege and engaging in the illegal mining of the biodiversity area. Sources on the ground accuse the MP for the area of sponsoring the fresh siege on the forest with close to 17 excavators. But Oscar Oforilabi has denied involvement, but confirms those mining are party boys. Members of a rapid response team dispatched to stop the illegality were later accosted outside the forest area by the illegal miners on motorbikes, taken to an unknown location and assaulted. Joy News checks revealed they seized the weapons of some of the forest guards. On Wednesday, the two armed groups who have laid siege in the Tanwanya Forest Reserve engaged in a fight, leading to the death of two and one in a critical condition with severe gunshot wounds. Sources at the Forestry Commission say forest guards are unable to discharge their duties anymore because of the latest invasion. Forest reserves affected in the latest wave of invasion include Tanwanya, Tanonimre, and the Yoyo Forest Reserves. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaridonko, Ahowin Municipality, Western Region.
Ningo Pram Member of Parliament and Communications Minister Designate Sam George says Ghana stands to save an estimated $300 million annually by centralizing data exchange and ICT platforms. Speaking at the Engage Ghana event held at the Kempinski Hotel, Sam George expressed concern over the duplication of data by various government agencies, describing it as a major challenge. He emphasized the need for harmonization, which he believes will streamline operations, reduce inefficiencies, and significantly cut costs. There's more in this report.
Engage Ghana brought together key figures from the diaspora, particularly the U.S., alongside Ghanaian business and political leaders to discuss strategies for advancing Ghana's business, economic, and workforce development. The event served as a platform to foster collaboration and innovation for the country's growth. MP for Ningo Pram and Communications Minister Designate Sam George said Ghana could save up to $300 million annually by centralizing data exchange and ICT systems. He called for harmonization across government agencies to eliminate data duplication.
You've got too many siloed data sets that are not speaking to each other. And so there's so many cracks and dark and gray areas in our data management in the country. And forgive me, but it's simply because there's a lot of procurement that's going on in ICT that's duplicated, and people in the public sector are creaming off the public taxes just to do procurement. Well, President Mahama is clear that he doesn't want that level of corruption to continue again. We are clear in our minds that with a centralized data exchange and a centralized ICT platform for the country, every year we'll make savings of at least $300 million. Now imagine how much $300 million can do for a community or for communities in this country relative to provision of school blocks, relative to CHIPS compounds or pipe-on water. Over 4 years, that's $1.2 billion. We've gone to the IMF before for $1.5 billion. So just by centralizing the entire government ICT operation, you're beginning to make those savings every year.
A presidential staffer, Beatrice Annan, reaffirmed the government's focus on partnerships with the private sector to drive job creation and boost economic growth.
So we are looking forward, to private partnerships that are beneficial to many young people as long as it relates to job. Because the government is not going to invest the 3 billion themselves. And we are asking you, private sector, to come and invest the 3 billion. I'm sure that you're going to ask for value for money. We're going to look at the right sectors. We are going to cut away waste and the duplication of rules, because then private sector is in to make profit.
President and CEO of OIC of South Florida, Newton Sanon, emphasized the need for Ghana to embrace artificial intelligence, stressing its transformative potential for the country's development.
But in large part, I've been listening to AI consistently. If you, in some form or fashion, don't get tuned into AI and how pervasive it's going to be in our life, from a local and international standpoint, you're going to get left behind. So AI and a lot of technology is informing international workforce development opportunities. So I tell people to don't run from it, embrace it.
Managing partner at Oak & Woods, one of Accra's leading commercial law firms, Bernard Owusu-Chimesi, identified real estate as a reliable investment option within Ghana's current economic landscape, encouraging both local and international investors to explore opportunities in the sector.
So far, because of how the city is volatile, it is the most secure thing anybody can do in our economy. You are okay to quickly do, you check your land title, bring your lawyers, and you buy it. Now, because of Airbnb, God bless them, you can rent everything in this world now. You can rent it. So it is easier to protect your investment there. That is the way forward, at least for now, until we are so sure the economy is going to stand.
A former executive chef at renowned establishments such as Movenpick, Ambassador Hotel, and Golden Tulip Hotel, Chef John Odru pushed for stronger collaboration between Ghanaian businesses and the diaspora to drive mutual growth and innovation.
Well, time now for us to serve you our business updates, starting with the currency market. Well, from the currency market, let's get into our stories now. And the Ghana Hotels Association is pushing for the consolidation of taxes within the hospitality industry into one component at an affordable level to accelerate the growth of the tourism sector. According to the group, the numerous taxes are burdensome, which is hampering the sustainability of the sector. Speaking to Joy Business, President of the Ghana Hotels Association, Edward Akanyamika Jr., said there had to be a deliberate attempt by the incoming sector minister to take a relook at some of the taxes in the hospitality industry.
We are actually pushing for consolidation of the taxes within the sector. We have the value-added tax, we have the GET fund, we have the NHIL, we have the COVID-19, we have the sustainability levy, and all that. And then we also come in and add the regulatory fees and then copyright royalties. And see, we are looking for a system that consolidates these taxes and levies into one component tax at affordable levels that will motivate or promote the business. So it's not just about removing, say, the COVID-19. That does not solve the situation. So it requires a deeper appreciation of the issue because, We have issues about utility tariffs as well. That's also there. And then issues about our high staffing, maintenance. Hotel business is such that if you have to keep an eye on your maintenance 24 hours around the clock, because you are serving clients who are sensitive to anything that has to do with the standards or quality that you expect them to enjoy. Okay, and that's cost for high cost input. And then don't forget also that a lot of the upmarket hotels have to import the things they use because they can't get it on a regular basis here. Okay, so issues about exchange rate and also the high cost of borrowing. The earlier report talked about something like that. High cost of credit, high cost of borrowing. Okay, now when you put all these things together, that is what makes our prices a bit or appear to be high.
Now, some banks are linking the current pressure on the cedi to limited supply of dollars by the Bank of Ghana. George Wiafe has the rest of the story.
Data picked up from some of the commercial banks showed that demand over the past week is coming from corporates and firms operating in these sectors, as most of them are trying to restock for the year. The current pressure on the Ghana cedi, according to some market analysts, is purely a demand and supply issue. The Bank of Ghana is still in a strong position to support the Ghana cedi, looking at their current state of reserves. Therefore, some market analysts have described it as interesting, looking at the limited support of dollars on the market. However, some have argued that following the resumption of debt repayment to bondholders since October last year, there's a need for the central bank to be tactful over how it uses its reserves. Even if you restrict yourselves to the bank rates, it has moved from the 14 cedis range to $1 when it comes to the rates from 2 weeks ago to now more than 15 Ghana cedis to $1. For some, the first quarter pressure is expected, with some even describing it as perennial. But maybe some fresh measures need to be introduced to slow the rate of depreciation against the US dollar.
Let's now cap off the business updates with our commodities market for today. Business is done and dusted, and that's how we cap off the news in its entirety. But stay with us for the news review. 3 strong gentlemen join us. Professor Isaac Buedi, he is with the University of Professional Studies, Accra. We have Kwame Nkrumah Botio, he's with the Convention People's Party. And then we have Andrew Appiah Dankwa with the Movement for Change. All of them join us as we serve you the news review up next. Welcome back. This is the news review on the AM show. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me tell you about Medicas Hospital, a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind. They have spacious wards built with your family in mind, a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind, and of course, they have assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine to serve you, led by the drive-time doctor, Dr. Yao Osafo. And they also offer general medical services as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, that is mental health, and eye care. But there's more. They also offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. And in addition to all of this, they have a 24-hour pharmacy ensuring you'll receive effective, efficacious, safe, and affordable medicine. And they bring to you something that is lacking in some medical outfits, the most powerful medicine of all, simple human kindness and empathy. Now, they take pride in holding themselves to the highest attainable standards, and they accept all forms of payment, including from private health insurance companies. So all you have to do now, make your way. Find yourself in Medicas Hospital. They are at number 10, Kinso Street, near the Ashale Boche School Junction. You can call them on 0501 477 340. 0501 477 340. On social media at MedicasGH. That is MEDICASGH. Medicas Hospital, a place of healing. Joining me for the news review now, at least for starters, I have in the studio spokesperson for the Movement for Change. He's a lawyer as well. Andrew Apia Dankwa joins the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning. I like your outfit.
Thank you very much. I salute Buddha Siru this morning of Siru Africa. He clothes me every Friday. And I was just sharing with Andrew that when a senior friend of mine reached out that, oh, there's this young man doing amazing things. Would you like him to clothe you as a way of support so that people get to know about him? I said, why not? When young people are doing something, I'm all for young people. So yes, I don't usually do this, but I accepted his because, and he does fantastic work. So yeah, and they are so, like the cost is so low. So I'll tell you about him later on the show. But you can also check out Siru Africa on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. That is SIRU-Africa. Coming into the studio, you're not looking bad yourself.
Yeah.
Polka dots, navy blue, what do you say? And he doesn't want me to mention his sneakers. Or sneakers, people say, oh, hey, you don't be children. What do I say? You don't be for kiddies.
Then I do that. Good morning.
But good to have you, Andrew.
Yeah, same.
What are the thoughts on your mind this morning?
In fact, I didn't have anything particular. So let me wish you a good morning. But you know, whilst we're having a conversation prior to the show about your design, I must applaud you for that design, and not just a design, but something that you have been doing, as in helping push the young, talented people in this country. It brought my mind to something I feel Ghana as a state isn't doing too well, as in finding a way of tapping into the numerous potentials in this country and then turning them into something really big that will eventually benefit all of us. So you take the story of Google and all these American tech giants, and the question is, would they have managed to reach where they are, become billionaires, have companies that are trillionaire, what's it called, turnovers, if they were in Ghana? My mind is in the spirit of the reset agenda that His Excellency John Mahama is pushing. I think that reset agenda wouldn't be complete if there isn't a radical reset of an understanding of the role government has to play in pushing individual talents in this country for the ultimate benefit of all of us. And so I'll call on government that in all sectors, as in the economy, politically, everything they do, they should understand that their role is to solve problems. Their role is to create that right enabling environment where all of our individual ambitions can have the best chance of being fulfilled. Their role is to find a way of including everybody in the agenda to build
inclusivity,
a very strong Ghana. And I know that, and I'm convinced that governments since time immemorial have failed radically at doing that. And I pray and hope that this reset agenda would include a deliberate attempt to create a right environment that will tap into the individual talents of every Ghanaian to ensure that we build a strong nation. That's my thought for the day.
Just two quick reactions to what you said. The minority leader in Parliament, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, in applauding the Boku Central legislator, Mahama Yariga, who is now majority leader, called for working together.
Yeah.
And Mahama Yariga in response said that they are going to be inclusive actually, and that they have such wide numbers, but in the spirit of unity and working together, they are going to be inclusive. And I'm going to look forward to that. That's something that, because the fact that it's like being a bully. The fact that you are bigger, stronger than someone doesn't necessarily mean you should beat the person up. You get it. I think like the president has promised and like the majority has promised, it sends a certain signal that we are not going, it's not going to be business as usual. You remember when the NPP had 169? Doing whatever you don't do that because the tide quickly turned 137, and then it became a problem with the Fomena MP as the only, stand away. But I just want your quick thoughts, since you started talking about young people and all of that. What do you think about the creation of the Ministry for Youth Development and Empowerment, which is going to be helmed by Opariado? And what are your expectations?
So fantastic, effort. But I think the creation of that ministry should just be the beginning. My expectation is that deliberately government will use its power of fiscal policy, first of all, to find a way of identifying talents. Use its power of fiscal policy to help startup companies. Use its power of fiscal policy again to create the environment where small businesses can thrive. And by so doing, like I said earlier, give deliberate and real support to young people in all spheres, not just the academics, but like the very talented, as in the creatives, the sportsmen. As in, government should deliberately put in place policies, and not just policies, but also deliberately aid in terms of, because everything boils down to money. You understand? Find a way of using or creating an expenditure space to aid some of these young people. They could, so in a great transformational plan, for instance, as part of our economic transformational agenda, we had a policy that said that government was going to use this power of fiscal policy to create what we called a government loan guarantee scheme. You understand? So you work in collaboration with the banks. You create a loan guarantee scheme. Then the banks then can unleash its liquidity to these startup companies to engender real growth and transformation. And I believe that the Ministry for Youth Empowerment should be thinking in similar directions. They must deliberately put in place policies that will identify and help young entrepreneurs, young creatives, and young people, because really they are the energy of the nation. It's our responsibility to ensure that we help them so that the whole nation benefits from their talents.
They are the lifeblood. Before you get into the papers, just to add to that, I think there have been some reports, I've forgotten whether it is US specific or is it Canada or some other countries, and they mentioned that by and large, if you look at the countries whose citizens say they are coming there to study, and yet a chunk of them end up not studying, but they come into the country all right, then they divert and they go and do other things. You would find countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Bangladesh, and a host of other, Iran, a host of other countries per that report. Quite a percentage come in all right. And you see that there are stiffer restrictions on those now happening in different countries. From the UK and what they've done, now they say initially, especially for master's, PhD, you would come and your family has the opportunity of, now they are cutting off all of those things. It's becoming trickier and trickier. And now Trump also says he's ending birthright.
Donald.
And some states are already beginning to, some people, but individuals.
They have actually challenged, a district court judge in Seattle has put that's the bit of the rule of law.
When Trump comes, the rates will be many.
Exactly.
The rates will be many. But let's get into the papers. Which one are you starting with?
So I'm starting with the Daily Analyst.
Okay.
And I think the headline news is that Mahama moves info ministry to presidency to ensure guaranteed flow of information to the public. And Mahama Ayariga takes over as majority leader. I think the story that excites me there is the Mahama Ayariga bit. As a very positive feedbacks, and I think you alluded to that in your earlier submission. You see, my view has been that in the structure of our governance, we have just one parliament. You see, we are not practicing a parliamentary system per se. We have per system. You have parliament whose sole job is to serve as in beyond passing laws, is to serve as an oversight on the executive. It's not the duty of just the minority in parliament to do that. So what we have over the life of the Fourth Republic is the impression that it's just the duty of the minority to provide that oversight. Mahama Ayaga is saying that in spite of their overwhelming majority in parliament, they are going to include the minority. I know they don't like us to call them micro-minority, but it's looking like they're micro-minority. He's going to include...
You can avoid that. You can avoid calling them that.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll thank you for that. I'll try. So in spite of the minority, so I think I'll start from now. In spite of the minority, as in the gap between the majority and the minority, they're going to include them. And I think it's a step in the right direction because we have just one parliament, and we can't continue to create that impression that we have two parliaments, especially if they are able to play their role, their fundamental duty, or especially if they are going to be fidel to their duty of serving as a check or as an oversight on the executive. Then it is important that they find a way of including, because the fact that they have a majority, in my view, does not mean that Parliament should become just a rubber stamp to what the executive.
True.
And that will be undermining the very essence of the constitutional democracy we took upon ourselves. So his sound bites are positive. I pray that when it comes to it, they find a way of showing their commitment and fidelity to their fundamental role as an oversight on the executive. And they can only do that if they find a way of including the minority, like he said, in everything they do, as against excluding them.
All right. Interesting thoughts shared there. But I would quickly ask you about, the numbers a bit. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, where he says, I'm sure you've heard, where he's talking about the fact that the president has promised 60 ministers. The president has been speaking to why there is no appointment to an information ministry as of now. But then there's also the question of 60 ministers. Let's start from there. And the fact that Alexander Afenyo-Markin is saying, you know what, apologize to Ghanaians and let them know that, Charlie, you will have to go beyond 60, because if government is to work well, you must do beyond 60. But the president also promised, and in fact, he's reiterated that he is going to do 60 and that some ministries will not have deputies. But this call by Afenyo-Markin that apologize and appoint more, political maneuvering, a way of testing the system or what? What do you see there?
So let me say hello to my own brother.
Let's bring in Kwame Nkrumah. Good morning. You are looking fly this morning. You are looking very loyally.
Thank you.
With a bit of grey in there, spicing it up.
Let me give you a secret. So when we were in school, he was called Kubash. When in secondary school,
is this Achimota?
Achimota, he was called Kubash, and then also he was called Osajefo. So I don't know.
So he was called Kubash.
Kubash. And so when he meets his Achimota friends, they call him Kubash. They are likely to call him Kubash. And then when he meets his law school friends, like
Osajefo.
So,
because the Kwame Nkrumah must reflect somewhere. So
exactly. So some of us are conflicted. So initially I wanted to say Kubash. I said,
right. Too many secrets.
When I come to you eventually, I will try to find out what Kubash, how you came about Kubash and what Kubash means. Yeah. Okay, so let me hear from you in respect of the.
So my honest view is that the comment by Afenyo is fueled by mischief.
It's fueled by mischief.
Yeah, it's an attempt to get the president to concede that what His Excellency Nana Addo did, as in the huge numbers he had as ministers, is justified. But, I personally think that we don't need even up to 60 ministers to do the work of government.
But you see, if Afenyo-Markin says that, then we should be asking him why his candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, also promised 50.
50, even
so if Afenyo-Markin says, do more than 60 because, like you're saying, for you it's marks of mischief, and then I would ask him, but honorable leader, your own party's candidate promised even less, 10 less. Exactly. So how about that? Would you have been advising your party's leader at this time to increase the numbers?
Or when they were telling us that they were going to appoint 50, were they being insincere? As in, it was a case of let's tell them something to get power, and then once we have the power, we will shoot them pepper. I mean, seriously, my personal view is that we don't need 60 ministers to run this country, especially if we are supposed to follow the constitutional desire of us having a truly decentralized system. You don't need 60 ministers. In fact, the position of the movement of change was that we were going to run the country, if we had power, with just 14 ministers.
All right.
Yeah, and so for me, I commend His Excellency, as much as I think that the 60 is too much, at least I commend him for the clear show of sincerity.
I guess it's a start, right?
Yeah, it's a start. So we should.
We've hit 100 and something before. We've done 80 something. Yeah, 125 came down to about 111 or 113. Yeah. Then we hit 80 something. Is it 83 or 88? Exactly. And now, at least, diminishing returns in economics. So even if we are at 60 now, who knows? Maybe next time 45. Who knows? Maybe next time 23. Then we are getting somewhere. So at least we'll
so Afenyo-Markin should take it.
He should relax.
Allow the president to work.
I want to know how he will react to that question about Dr. Bawumia, who said 50. So then,
in fact, I think we must find a way of bringing him here.
We must find a way of bringing him here to answer. Anyway, let me also welcome aboard Professor Isaac Boadi. Lovely outfit this morning.
Oh, brother. You learn from the best. I want to learn from you.
Good to have you join the conversation. But let me quickly come to Kwame Nkrumah Boatio. Your quick thoughts, and then we'll take it from there.
You know, my quick thoughts it relates to something I wanted to avoid. I'm usually positive.
Don't avoid it. You say it.
But, you know, when I was coming, what was ringing in my mind since yesterday was diminishing returns. So when you said diminishing returns, you know, I think His Excellency started well. His Excellency is still doing well. But if you look at some of what is going on with retired or resigned appointees being sacked, and some of the questions that you are getting during the vetting, I think diminishing returns is setting in.
Wait, quickly on the first point. Yes. Retired.
Yeah, you know, there were some letters circulating regarding the former EPA boss, and the former
Dr. Akurugu and others,
and then the former NIA boss. There's some letters circulating asking them to vacate office, and these are people who apparently had already left office. There should be some attention to detail there. This is not a school club, but this is governance. You should do your due diligence administratively.
Right.
That is on the executive side. You don't issue letters to sack people who already resigned or
I know, for example, Samir Uku left a while ago.
Yes.
He resigned, among others, of the
it's not the best. They started very, very well. And as I said, the CPP, we are in to be partners and not just citizens, to make sure that the government succeeds for the good of the whole country.
Right.
And also some of the questions that are coming from the vetting committee too, they're a bit of a cause for concern. They're a bit of a cause for concern. I know that everybody is trying to reach the ideal, and we all know that the ideal is what pertained in the 60s, even regarding the number of ministers. I think Osajifo had less than 20 ministers, about 16 or 18. I know we are all aiming for the ideal on both the majority and the minority side, but let's not get carried away. Otherwise, these things set in. That is what is on my mind, because I know that the president is on course to make his tenure a huge success, and that is what we all want to see. But his lieutenants, those around him, they should exercise a bit of caution on both the majority and the minority side in order not to throw a spanner in the works. That is what I have to say for now.
All right. Thank you for those interesting thoughts. Prof,
yeah.
Your thoughts?
On the appointments?
Oh, no,
I have followed the social media, TVs, and the various issues happening in the country, especially the appointment of the NDC members into a high office. I think we are still hoping and praying that those promises will be kept. That's all that we are waiting for. You gave a very good account of starting with some years ago, 120 ministers. Then it came to, you're giving the account. We are hoping to see 60. Did they promise 60 or 50?
60. It's not more than 60.
Not more than 60. And then,
so it could even be less than 60.
Yeah, so not more or less. That's all we are hoping for. And I don't know what Afenyo said, but I'm sure.
Afenyo said, apologize to Ghanaians and appoint more than 60. After all, you can just explain to Ghanaians that, Charlie, actually, I came in and I realized that I need more ministers. And that's why I was asking, okay, so would he have been giving this advice to, assuming Dr. Bawumia, because he even promised 10 less. So.
That would have been suicidal. But then we hope that he will not come, a president will not come back and tell us that he wants to go beyond 60. I personally think that, I don't know, I've not been a minister before, I've not been a president before. What is in the, when they take over power, what happens? And sometimes they are unable to fulfill those promises. They only get to the high office and they come and tell us, well, I wish I had done that, but that's not the case, so let me change it. There's nothing wrong to change your mind at a certain point in time, once it will be for the good of the country. But it also tells you, don't also be promising people things like that if you have no idea what you're supposed to do. And we're hoping that he will keep to the promise, because 21 days is just at the corner. And we will come back with some of these issues like that. Again, I'm also having a challenge. Is it a consolidation that we are doing, or a proper cutting off the ministry away? Because I think one article, President moves the Ministry of Information and Communication to
the presidency.
Is he moving the staff as well? What happened to the staff? And in that case, what happened to the expenditure? Are we cutting just a number or taking the name out, or those staffs, what happens to them? That's my worry. Because it will have effect also on our expenditure stream. That's my issue. I don't know whether it's a consolidation we are doing or a proper cutting of those ministries off. If you are cutting, we are not including those ministries. That's fine. But then you change the name, move into another ministry, and keep the same staff there. Yeah. What are we trying to do? That's my worry. It's.
So I've heard different. I wanted you to land. I've heard different things. I guess different strokes for different folks. Yeah. And it was also a point that Alexander Afenyo-Markin said yesterday, or made yesterday, that what then happens to the staff. But I also think that, yes, there will be these staff, and some of them, the civil service, public service, and all of that. You will have to find ways, because you also can't just say that, okay, we are laying off since we have fused these ministries together. Technically, if you want the thinking, we are also just going to lay off all of these people. Something must happen. But in the end, in trying to attain the number 60, like we've all said here, some ministries are like duplications.
Yeah, which I agree.
And others really should have always been together.
Yeah.
Some would say that we've created railways and this at some point. They are all transport. Can you put them under one umbrella? Agric and some other components, can they be together? So I think those fusions, and over time, this wouldn't be the first time we've done some of these fusions or consolidation, as you call them. I think the devil then is how to streamline moving forward so that as you consolidate, you don't affect the public service too much, but then you can also ensure value. At some point, let's face it. And sometimes it's not so nice when we talk about them. But how many times have you not heard, oh, ministries, they are a lot of people there, some of them doing nothing. Haven't we all heard that before? Yeah. And maybe even said it at some point. You go to the ministry sometimes and it's delicate. I don't want to sound as though people were not doing their work. But I think as we even consolidate, there's also the opportunity for us to then narrow it down and see who is doing what, who is supposed to do what. Is that person doing it? Do we have value for money as a state? Or are we paying 3 people to do one job? Do you get it? We must get to that point so that efficiency and effectiveness will also come in. I don't know what you think, Jeff.
But I don't know what...
So I agree with you, but at the same time, I feel it's a natural course we have to take, and it mustn't end at consolidation. It must go on to whittle down so that then that's where we start getting value for money, because Kwame Nkrumah Boatio is most fit for this position. But there are 4 Kwame Nkrumah Boatios. And only one is really performing. Or it is the same job that Kwame Nkrumah Boatio should have done that has been carved out for 4 people. So essentially, all 4 of them are doing nothing when one person can do the work.
Excellent job. Excellent job, because see, and I'm glad the expert himself is here. But anytime we've gone to IMF, one of the key issues is the size of our public.
Indeed.
60% of our revenues are used to pay them. Crazily, and
that thing makes no sense. 60%.
60%. No, it's crazy. It's unbelievable. And that's one of the biggest problems we are facing. Because, and it's not just the ministries. You go to Cocoa Board, you have a whole office, big office with a lot of human beings, and all they're supposed to do is to handle payroll. Big office. You go to GNPC, bloated. You see, the problem is that what our politicians have done over the years, and that's what I mean by our government is failing us, in the sense that they paper over or they hide their failure to use their power fiscal policy to create an environment where businesses will grow and thus create jobs, by they themselves employing so many people into the public sector to do no work. And that's where jobs for the boys and girls comes in. Because we must satisfy the base. But in doing that, you create roles that, I mean, let me just chip in. You remember at a point in time, under the erstwhile administration, we saw a list of staffers and people were talking about, oh, lady in waiting and all of that. I mean, it's the colonial period that ladies in waiting and all these people were on there. And they're taking money every month.
How?
From taxpayers' money.
I remember as far back as Kufuor era, when His Excellency President Kufuor, when plans were to merge the revenue agencies into one. I think that time the Revenue Agencies Governing Board was being set up. And I had the privilege, I just come out of university, of working on aspects of it, of being privy. And it's true that there were some duplications. And one of the policies that my colleagues and I suggested was what we term staff reprocessing. Because when you merge them, there are some people who are actually underemployed. Move them up to where they'll be useful. And those that...
And let's quickly understand underemployment.
Yes.
Yes. It means you have a certain skill set, but you are not using that skill. You are doing something that is not reflective. And you can be pushed up.
Exactly. And that was a very good program then that looked at all these things. Those that had to be brought up, they brought them up. And those that had to be laid off, they were laid off. I mean, it's a very tough bullet to bite. But we have to, if you are going to merge these ministries, move people up where they have to be moved up, and then lay people off where they have to be laid off. Otherwise, we just keep on bloating the public purse.
Are we good on that?
Yeah, I think we are good. We need a total overhaul, this ministry. Some of the works, activities done by these staff should be considered. And I'm sure it shouldn't be limited to this administration. I mean, the past administration and the years to come, those administrations that will be coming. We need to have a study that will have a look at the entire public sector space. What do we do?
Senior, there have been many of such studies, and maybe we'll throw it back to you, the academics.
How to make
sometimes implementation.
That's a problem.
Implementation is a problem.
Yes. And wanting to satisfy the base. I think we should also get to the point where we realize, yes, in satisfying the base, it must be measured, and then in looking at the general situation so that we don't end up, because these are the same situations that, if not curtailed, will lead to, like Andrew is saying, you have a bloated public sector You are paying so much to people who are doing no work.
Yeah.
Very soon, if you are not careful, you'll start facing an economic or financial crisis. IMF comes in again, and then it's a vicious cycle you keep.
Yeah.
So there should be, for example, if I were thinking for anybody in government, I would say this whole bit about 60% going to the public service.
Yeah.
If we can whittle it down, and it must be radical.
Yeah, it should be.
If we can whittle it down to even 30%, do you know how much would be saved and be able to pump into roads, hospitals, and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was talking about the example of Javier Milei in Argentina. Radical change, but what they have done in Argentina, where Argentina was, and where... You see, you can't eat your cake and have it. You can't. Yeah. And since we are talking ministries, this will be the last thing I bring up. If you go to myjoyonline.com, there's that story of the president justifying absence of an information ministry under his government. And he says it's also to help him fulfill his promise to downsize the government. But this comes after the Ghana Journalists Association raised concerns regarding the changes in government structure to understand the rationale behind not having an information ministry. You do know that an information ministry plays a key role, even as far as media, safety, interactions, RTI, and other matters are concerned. And he says, with regard to government communications, you will notice that there's no information ministry in the lineup of 23 ministries recently announced. That was partly in response to our promise to downsize government. And we had to be very strategic with how we dealt with the flow of information from government, because that's critical to the success of whatever we intend to do. That's why we brought information into the presidency with a Minister of State in charge of government communications and anchored it with a string of strong communications professionals in the most critical sectors. And of course, we know Felix Kwachiofosu is helming that. What do you think from the GJA's perspective and from the president's perspective? Because on the one hand, I want to fulfill my promise, 60 ministries. On the other hand, the GJA is saying information ministry needed. Can the office at the presidency not do the work? I mean, they can equally do it from there, right? But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, also, first of all, let me say emphatically that in my view, and I think I said on this platform before, that one of the most critical institutions to sustain the democracy we have here is the media, as in no two ways about that. And that's why, rightly, they are called the fourth estate. We ourselves have given you the power. Fourth estate, no law, you understand? Now the question is it the duty of the Minister or Ministry of Information to regulate the activities of the media, as in my view is that I think the president has taken the view that the job of the Ministry of Information is to aid government in giving out information, not necessarily to regulate or... I think that's the job of the National Media...
NMC.
Yeah. And also we have, what's called enough laws in our system to protect as in the work the media plays or their rights. And so, personally, I do not see how having a ministry per se will impact on the role of what's called the media and journalists per se. See, what I think we should do, because of the importance of journalism, of media in this democracy, especially in creating that right for the country. You know, we have been saying that we can sustain this democracy and make it even better, get it more entrenched if we create that right political culture. Right. I think one of the biggest independent tools in doing that is the media. So what we should do is, as a people, to push the agenda. So we create that right media ecosystem. And some right media ecosystem. And you can do that by the right laws, the right institutions, to create that right ecosystem, that would take away any issue that would hold back the media from doing its work. Okay. Create the right institution that will ensure that, as in you can do your work without fear of being what's called
victimized,
attacked, and all. Because, like I'm saying, the law said what we have the parliament, the executive, but you don't need any law to tell you that one of the most important and influential institutions in this democracy is the media, and the solution in entrenching their role, entrenching our right to free information and to share our thoughts, our mind. Really, it's not necessarily in just having one ministry, but really it's in the deliberate creation of that right media ecosystem. And for me, that will mean that you have the right laws, you have the right institutions, you have the right system that will entrench your right to give out information and for all of us to speak our mind. Because without that, without you, the media, then I think this is a democratic effort we're going to.
And I think it should even go beyond an information ministry. All ministries must understand. There are times where we've sought information from certain entities and they literally dig their heels in and they would rather pay a fine than from the RTI Commission than, than give you information. They will, I mean, you heard of that incident where I think it was Manasseh and his group and the Fourth Estate. And they wanted some information and eventually when you've hustled and tussled and huffed and puffed, they will give you the information, but then they give you, a ton of hard copies. Yes. Soft copy, they say you blaze through it. We give you 10,000, 20,000 pages. Go and read it.
I mean, all of
hear
these stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe
I think that was the SML.
I remember. They give them box.
Yeah, they will box. The thing comes in, you see it, and now your heart, you decide.
So the right information is not working?
Prof,
that's serious.
But I don't know what your thoughts are on this, man.
Well,
briefly so that we can get
I think I share
the
the same comments or submission from my good friend. For me, it's not about the creation. In fact, if you look at the headline, GJ clash with Mahama over information ministry. Sometimes it's quite misleading, as if there's a...
It's sensational.
So sometimes you can give a very good heading, maybe for people to look into the papers and read. But I think we should tone down some of the word clash over. Sometimes it could be just advice or so. But are we not having access to information? That's one thing. Is the media not having ways of expressing their views? We need to ask all these questions. If that is no, then we have a problem. But if it's yes, then the creation of this ministry, whether it's merged or whatever, I don't have a problem. The point is that we should be free to speak. We should be free to act and do things that... But I'm surprised of your submission in terms of they give you a huge document for you to go and pick up. In this time and age, you can't do this. You can't do this. And it comes down to the ministry issue we're talking about. People are quite so inefficient. You go there sometime, even typing becomes a problem. And there's a person is there, he's been paid over years. And it's a worrying.
Kwame, quick thoughts on that.
Quick thought. I mean, this is a very important story because if you look at his front page on the Searchlight, if you read it, the GJ was only seeking clarification. And I, honestly speaking, I agree with the president on this score. Because even from experience, as far back as 2004, I used to go to the WA Information Services Department. And that was the first time I had dealt with the information service. And the amount of information that they gave me for free, I was in shock.
Your mind was blown, eh?
I'm like, so we have all this in Ghana, but we have become ministry obsessed. We have very effective institutions.
Ministry of what?
Ministry obsessed.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because we think once it's not coming from the top, then it doesn't have any power. I think you should even cut down more on the ministries. And pay attention to Information Services Department and the Ghana News Agency, as he said he would do, and as the GGA is backing. These people are doing a great job, and the Fourth Estate has come a long way since the repeal of the criminal libel law in 2001. It has been a gradual process, but the media, without doubt, is now the fourth leg of governance. The media is on its feet and is very, very strong. And I do not think we need a ministry of information. I mean, the media is doing a good job. We just need to make sure we finance Information Services Department, the GNA, and even other related bodies like the NCCE. You know, all of these perform vital functions.
They work together.
They work together. And because I was outside Accra and, I mean, getting information was difficult, I had to go to these places, and I was surprised. But because they are under-resourced, people don't know much about them and what they offer. So let's take another look. Let's pump some resources into these people, GNA, ISD, NCC, and let's stop being ministry obsessed and governance. And we are becoming too political. Let's be realistic. Let's be more of technocrats. Let's move the country forward.
I mean,
I agree.
The nomenclature may not be the most important thing.
Exactly.
Name.
Exactly.
But what must be done? Exactly. Is it going to be done? If it's going to be done, I don't have any problems. Do you get it? Because he mentions that he is going to modernize the Information Services Department, transitioning it from its traditional role as a civil service organization into a dynamic entity under the presidency. So if we're still going to get what we get and more, well,
I think I mean done because
what's in the name?
Yeah, exactly.
What's in the name? Exactly. But let's get into the papers. Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah. So I have here the Daily Searchlight, and we have an NGO questioning where are the women ministers? Right. NGO questions.
So give us the headlines, okay, and then we'll get.
And then we also have ensure your appointees declare assets. Crusaders against corruption. And
the president has spoken to that.
Yes.
I think, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, he was mentioning that they should start getting themselves ready to declare their assets.
Yes.
In one of the engagements. Yeah.
Yes, we have former President Kufuor consoles Reverend Wengam. And then the story I just dealt with, GGA clash with Mahama over information ministry.
Right.
And regarding the women ministers, Ms. Faustina Prempeh of DCI, that's Defense for Children International, they are asking that at least 39 women should be appointed into managerial and decision-making positions. And I think it's a gradual process. The president is still on it. So far, he's put in place extremely competent women in various positions, including my own former boss, Nanaya Jantwa, who's now a presidential staffer. She did a great job at the PURC, and I know she'll do a great job here. I have my own friend, Shemima Muslim, who, my mates from Legon. I mean, even as far back as Legon, you could see that she's a born leader who will be doing amazing things. So far, he's put in place quite a number of women. The number may increase as it goes along. It's early days yet, but it's good the NGO is questioning it. And it shouldn't always be about the ministries. As I said, we are ministry obsessed. You see, we should be about leadership positions. You don't necessarily have to be the minister to be doing the work. You can be on a board somewhere and do a wonderful job, even more than the minister. Let's not look at the name. Let's not look at the name. Let's not look at the title, the position. Wherever you are put, don't see any position as too low or too high. Yours is to be as effective as possible and give it your all. And then we also have...
And just to add to that, another area I'm hoping we can have more women, because if you look at the last district level elections, there were even complaints about the fact that with the little women there, some of them were also relieved of their positions and men were brought in after, you remember, after the district level elections.
Yeah.
I also want to see more DCs and MCs that are women. Sometimes we completely forget. We are just thinking ministers and SOEs, CEOs and boards. But that is actually where we can see a lot of effectiveness at the grassroots. So DCs, MCEs, of course, they must have the quality, but can we intentionally have more women at that level?
We have to be intentional about it, because even on social media, a lot of people are advocating for various people to be made DCEs. A lot of them are male. And they are being backed by both male and female. And I think in this sense, we the men must also be become feminists. Let's also identify some women who can be DCs. And let's push them out
You've
there.
said something I've said for a long
Let's
time.
push them out there.
A lot of the time, feminism, you have women, and I keep saying that the best people who can fight for more for women is men.
Exactly.
It's not that women can't fight for themselves. No.
Yeah.
That's not the point I'm making. But oftentimes, if you look at the levers of power in different... When people were pushing for affirmative action in third-tier institutions, tertiary institutions, who were those who really made it happen? If you look at the structures back then, it was men.
Yeah.
So I always say that, look, if we want more affirmative action, if we want more feminism and more women in, it is up to us men. And it is because we are failing that we don't have many more. So if we take up the mantle and we really want to do it, and I always say this, when I was at the University of Ghana, there was a position. I was president of a number of groups. I became president of this group, and I went into the books and looked, and I saw that for a long time, it had always been a man as president, and best case scenario for a woman, vice. Usually secretary and the rest. I campaigned, I did my best. After I left, it was a woman who became president.
Very good.
I wanted to...
Very good.
And so it took my consciousness. If I hadn't pushed for... And the woman didn't even want to take it up.
Yes.
So now encouragement, then speaking to before eventually. If we don't do that, because look at our political system. Honestly, if you look at the money in politics, if you look at how aggressive it is, most women may be of that quality, but they will think, why should I put myself forward for people to when you data 2x4 do you understand?
Yes.
But if we give them that encouragement, they'll get there, and women have been known to perform.
It's true. Yes, it's true. It has a very good point. It's about having a thick skin, because public office comes with you being in the public eye. And as you said, somebody will buy some data and come up with allegations that are false, or even you say something and it will be twisted out of it. I agree with you. Even in Achimota School, in our year group, I was the SRC president. And then I pushed. And when we left office, the one who took over from me was the first female SRC president of Achimota School.
Congratulations.
So we always have to make a conscious effort.
Hey, that reminds me. What's the surname again? The nickname again?
Kubash. Don't forget Kubash.
In Cameroon, yes, you.
And if it gives wrong information, I'm here. I'll fact check.
Last time, forget again. This one I will not forget.
Yeah.
How did you come by the name Kubash?
Kubash, it was actually inherited from another gentleman.
A senior,
A senior called Kubash. He and I, we had some features.
So Kubash number one.
Features come.
Kubash number two. Kubash go, Kubash come. Oh, I see. So it was merely based on the features and maybe rapport.
Yes.
All right. Any other stories you want to
And also ensure your appointees declare assets, crusaders against corruption. It's also a very good call. It's a good call. And I think I don't know the intention of the vetting committee, but some questions were asked which seems to want to bring to light maybe the financial or economic standing of various appointees.
I remember Afenyo-Markin asking Haruna Idrisu, Minister Designate for Education, whether he owned a house in Cantonment.
Yeah, I remember.
And he said, you are a very honest man. Yes. You didn't say he was renting, he said he owned it.
Yes. He also asked a similar question to another appointee about renting. And the appointee admitted that she is renting, but sometimes too, I believe some of the questions may be a bit too personal. Allow them to declare their assets, and then we take it from there, because putting it out as people renting or people owning, it's going a bit. I think it's going a bit too far.
In any case, though, if not to reveal some malfeacence, whether someone is renting or owns,
yes,
has no basis. How does that affect whether they can do their job or not? And if you even look at our economic situation, how many people, even in prime positions, own a house? So it's neither here nor there for me, unless it's to reveal some suspected act of corruption. I think it's.
But I have a different opinion about this asset declaration. It's good. It's good to declare what you have before you take an office over an office. It's good. Is it the first time doing this? It's happened before.
Yes.
Do we take time to assess the assets when they are exiting? Has there been a call like that?
That's the problem. That's one
it's
of the
not enough just to come and declare, I have this.
Yeah.
But when you're exiting,
Yeah.
how many of us, administratively, taking time to peruse or find out what are you going with? You don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult getting that information. But beyond what you're saying, you're a finance person. Even more serious, and we have to accelerate so that we end within time. Even more serious is the fact that we keep focusing on assets, liabilities.
Well, that's
because I can come into the picture and I owe somebody 10 million Ghana cedis.
Yeah.
You don't know. But my assets, they are what they are. So you see that my assets haven't changed. But I could be taking money and paying off mine. But you don't know of that. It's all about assets. How about liabilities?
Okay, let's do the equation well. If you take your liability from your asset, you get your equity, your net worth, who you are.
So
let's do the net back.
All right. Let's quickly get into your paper very quickly.
Government will strengthen, the first story here.
So the New Finder newspaper.
The New Finder newspaper, right. Yeah. The government will strengthen fiscal management, then be fully equipping appointees by key officials. That's from the Minister of Finance. And there's another story here. Government doles out 1 million to victims of Kantamanto Market fire disaster. That has to do with the Kantamanto saga. Then Ghana must leverage ecotourism. These are the three stories that can be found in the New Finder. I mean, let's start with the first one. Government will strengthen fiscal management. This coming from the... Has he been confirmed now?
Yes, he's been confirmed.
Yeah, so that's...
The first three...
I'm sure this will be the first promise that he's made, that the government will strengthen fiscal management. If I want to put these keywords out there, it's difficult for Makola folks to understand fiscal management. Is that we're going to fight or what? It's difficult to. But it's simply the process of planning, allocating resources, and monitor the financial resources you have to achieve economic stability.
Right.
There's an end point. But then I often have a problem. There's one way of planning your resources, what you have.
Right.
There's another leg of you allocating resources. In fact, for these two areas, we are very good. Every minister and every administration, we plan well. We allocate. There are times we have issues with allocations because some other areas will not have equitable resources and all that. It happens. But my problem is always the monitoring part. The monitoring part. Do we monitor when we give out the resources out to those people? So I'm sure it's coming from, it's a good call from the Minister of Finance. We hope that's the key work he has to do.
Yeah.
Because in the ministry, for his ministry, you only control revenue, you control expenditure, and then you do a debt management part of it. So if you tell us you're going to do this, but it should be sustained.
Okay.
The last bit will be the government must leverage ecotourism. What is ecotourism? Ghana, we in that space to do that. It's simply sustainable form of tourism. That's all about. We should also find a way to leverage on this. And it's a good initiative if you are to do this, to get more revenue into the country.
Okay.
There should be so many avenues for government to have funds to support the expenditure portion of.
All right. We have to go, so I'll just add a few stories from the Daily Graphic and then we'll be out of here. Agbogloshi reclaimed land under siege. Scrap dealers, onion sellers occupy 80-acre land. This situation. Parliament approves 6 more ministerial nominees. Minister pledges reforms to tackle illegal fishing. Mahama Yariga takes over majority leadership. Government donates 1 million Ghana cedis to Kantamanto fire victims. We need to find a cure for these market fires, including dealing with people who make illegal electrical connections, people who have gas cylinders and all of that. It's crazy. PURC directs Ghana Water Limited to resolve Krobo area water crisis. So maybe we can talk about the Kantamanto fire and the donation. We can talk about Mahama Yariga. What do you think about the new leadership of the NDC in Parliament? Mahama Yariga, Majority Leader, Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, former, I believe, Central Regional Minister, now the Deputy, and then you have Roxanne Nelson Dafia-Mekpo, among others, as the whips. He's the Majority Chief Whip. And maybe this bit about the Agbogloshi reclaimed land under siege. Over 80 acres of land, the Greater Accra Regional Coordinating Council salvaged after the demolition of the Agbogboloshe scrapyard and the Onion Market 4 years ago, and I was there, are under siege. The walled parcel of land, 15 acres of which have been earmarked for the construction of the Ablikuma Central Municipal Hospital, is being taken over by the scrap dealers who have started staging a dramatic comeback. Within 2 weeks, scores of scrap dealers had broken through the protective wall and started constructing wooden structures on the land with impunity. Gentlemen, we have 2.5 minutes, 30 seconds each, quickly.
So quickly, so these are public lands. As we give them power to also protect public lands. To protect public pairs also means that you are going to protect public property. And I think the reset agenda also means that government, people who are given government powers, will show commitment and fidelity to their duties, and they'll protect property that belongs to all of us. Because essentially what they have done is that they slept on their job and they've allowed property that belongs to all of us to be taken over by. Is
it because of the transition and getting people in place that this is happening? It shouldn't be, should it?
You know, it should happen. There's no excuse. And it's not just about this transition. It's a problem that's plagued us. The Galamsey issue falls on that similar
same
issue.
thing.
And something. And what I'm saying is a clear case of people wanting power, but who don't want to work.
All right. And Galamsey is one of the issues I'll be touching on this morning. I'll blow your mind with some of the data that is filtering through. Yes, Kwame Nkrumah.
Quickly, I'll start.
30 seconds. Let's try and do it.
I'm excited about the new majority leadership, especially with, I think you mentioned Honorable Kweku Ricketts Hagan, especially because he's an economist and an investment banker.
Right.
I think Parliament has a lot of legal practitioners, and they bring, Mama Yariga, and they are all very competent. Roxanne, they are all competent legal practitioners. But I think it's a breath of fresh air when we have non-legal practitioners also in leadership. It brings a whole new different angle.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, 1 million given to the victims of Kantamanto Market. I think it's the highest donor now.
Yes, I think. We've heard from Alan Chomating, Dr. Baumia. I think
yeah, I think it's when someone is in a problem or crisis, we support. But then, I think I need to support what you said. When can we find a solution, a lasting solution to this problem? Donation is one of, but we should find a solution.
Lasting solutions. Please. All right. I see Kennedy Num. I had to acknowledge your message because you say someone is trying to scam you using Joy News' name. And you also have to be very careful out there. We've been putting out these explainers videos telling you that there are scammers out there, some of them using images, and it's not really, you can tell, AI, deep fake, so you have to be careful. Drop your number on the live stream and we'll see how we can reach you and help salvage the situation. Before we go, I'd like to acknowledge Siru Africa, Mudasiru, who always clothes me on Fridays, making me look good. Young man, let's support his business. You can call him on 0557 029 138, 0557 029 138, or on social media, Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram at SIRU-Africa. Let's support our own. And those who joined us for the news review this morning, Professor Isaac Brady, he's Dean Accounting and Finance at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. We also had joining the conversation Kwame Nkrumah Botsio, General Secretary of the CPP, and Andrew Appiah Dankwa. He is a legal practitioner and member of the Movement for Change. And let me mention that Kwame Nkrumah Botsio as well is a legal practitioner. Kobash. Kobash.
You had to bring
Kobash near. And that's the note on which we cap off the news review. Stay with us for sports up next with Haruna Mubarak.
It's the Friday edition of Sports and the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Now, the Ghana League Clubs Association has a new chairman after members elected John Ansah over Wilberforce Kumsin. John Ansah, who had previously served as vice president of the association, has promised to promote unity and champion the welfare of clubs in Ghana. There is more in this report.
In the race for the chairmanship Ansah secured 96 out of 132 votes cast, with his opponent Isaac Wilberforce Kumsin earning 35 votes, while one ballot paper was rejected. Speaking after his victory, Ansah pledged to foster collaboration within the Ghana football community and seek advice from colleagues to elevate Gauka.
Some big challenge on bringing ourselves together. And I think I want to drive on that. If you look at my flyer, I said that I want to be a productive leader. And that means that I want to bring everybody on board. I will solicit a lot of advice from my senior and even my own colleagues to be able to lift GACA from where it was. You know, the previous administration did a lot, but we need to improve on that and then work on the negatives so that we can address some of these mistakes. And we're going to run an open door policy where every idea that comes on board, we'll have an officer who will be collating all that and we'll put it together and work effectively to lift GACA up once again. I think I want to assure the whole general public, especially those of us in football, that that is true. I have a relationship with him, but that does not deter me from leading an association like GACA and do the right thing. What do I mean about the right thing? There are effects of having a dialogue with the FA. Things that we don't understand, they should let us get the picture clear. Most often than not, we don't go to inquire, and then we jump away and start giving falsehoods. But I want to do a relationship of going to inquire and find out why are the club having these challenges. We'll come back to our clubs and have a dialogue with them as well and address it once and for all.
Former Ghana Football Association Vice President Fred Papui was also present at the election.
Leading an association is not an easy task, but I believe they will all be up to the task because listening to their pledges and their manifesto promises, I would want to believe they understand the enormity of the task around. So I wish them well in their endeavor. I think it's up to the members. Divisions and disagreements are a part of human nature. Wherever you find yourself, definitely there will be groups here and there. So, but all in all, I'm sure they are a group of responsible men and women who have all got very, very interesting insights and plans for the association. So I just hope they will work towards clearing people's minds of those kind of things.
In other election results, Phils Marku won the vice chairperson position with 94 votes, defeating Nana Amankwa, who pulled 34 votes. Gabriel Godwin was elected as the Regional Football Association representative ahead of Isaac Gaspar. Fred Tindan emerged as the Premier League representative, beating Joseph Nko and Raman Yakubud. Other positions include Treasurer Patrick Manteboy retained his position for a second term. Division 1 Premier League representative Eric Opoku, Regional Clubs representative Gabriel Godwin Kwa, Women's Premier League representative ASP Naomi Abdullahi. Reporting for Joy Sports, Joseph Ayinga Water.
Now, Minister of Sports and Recreation designate Kofi Adams has hinted at plans to undertake an audit of the 2023 African Games held in Accra last year. According to the Member of Parliament for Boem constituency, the exercise will be necessary to ensure accountability and transparency in the expenditure for the Games.
Oral Opal operates in every facet of the country. Once we have any information that needs to be looked into, everything will be looked into. Sports is part of the activities that we do in this country, and no activity in this country is off the radar of checking for right things to be done. And so you cannot exclude anything. Nothing is excluded. If the presidency is not being excluded, then we don't expect the Ministry of Sports to in any way be excluded. We don't expect the agencies, the federations that work to the agency that will exist or agencies that will exist to be excluded. So we all have a role to play. And it is in that spirit of true and true accountability that persons will be willing to put in more. And so I believe that we will all look into all those things. And I've shared it with the various bodies that I'm meeting. But like I said, we need to bring back the love. And I believe one of the challenging parts of our sports has been funding. So we must all sit down and have a discussion, and let's see how we can sort this problem out. And if we can regenerate the love, many more persons may be willing to also come on board to help us deal with the funding challenge. But that funding must also start from somewhere to help us generate the love. But the good thing about sports is that sports is the only place that you don't pay for space. All of you speaking to me here, in the mornings and in the afternoons, you have platforms dedicated to discussing sports. And so all we need to do is to see how we can galvanize and unite these forces and direct it in a way that can help us regenerate and bring back the love that we are talking about.
Now, Ghanaian striker Jerry Afriye has officially joined Saudi Arabia Pro League side Al Qadsiya FC. The 18-year-old forward signed a 3-year deal from lower division side Thought FC. Afriye scored on his Black Stars debut in the 1-1 draw against Niger at home in the qualifying match for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. He also won the Golden Boot at the Waffle Beach Championship and also a gold medal with the Under-20 team at the African Games in March.
I'm thankful for the confidence reposed in me, fully aware that this is an onerous role. I intend to discharge it to the best of my ability. Our duty as legislators is to ensure that we do all we can for the betterment of the people of Ghana. As leaders of the House, as a leader of the House, I have an abiding duty to ensure that we always stand on the side of Ghanaians. Right, Honorable Speaker, this is my charge to keep and a duty I will faithfully discharge. As leader of the House, I am committed to working hard to ensure that members work in an environment that is more conducive, convenient, and friendly. We are the representatives of the people of Ghana for a reason. Let us always be guided by this, that way we will carve a place for ourselves in the annals of our dear country.
And that's how we kickstart our big stories. This morning, there's a new look in the parliamentary leadership as far as the National Democratic Congress, the majority in parliament, is concerned. We'll be looking at the prospects of that. And the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, has also called on the president to apologize to Ghanaians and just go beyond a number of 60 ministers. And the minority is urging the president to do that. But the president has promised to stick to the number 60 or less. But will the president bow to this pressure? And is the minority justified in its call? We'll be delving into these issues with our guests this morning. Joining us in the studio, we have Professor Kobby Mensah. He's a professor of marketing at the University of Ghana Business School. He's also a political marketing strategist. Then we have Dr. Rashid Draman, executive director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Both of them join the conversation this morning. Dr. Draman, I see you in the background. Good morning to you.
Morning.
All right. And Prof, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thanks so much, Ben. Let me just slightly make it correct. I'm an associate professor.
So associate professor. All right.
It's very important for me.
Thank you very much.
I'll just stick to Prof then. Prof, so let's get the conversation started.
I think we should start with Dr. Draman, since he may be
Right. Doc, thank you for joining the conversation. I'm curious to know what your reflection would be on this new leadership we are seeing. How does it reflect the NDC's strategy to reset Ghana? Dr. Droman.
Is that for me or?
No, that's
yes.
for you, Doc. Yeah, that's for you.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, my internet is quite unstable. I hope
It's okay.
it
We'll manage it.
enables the conversation. Yes. So I think resetting Ghana, for me, if I look at things from the perspective of Parliament, is, to ensure that we have a Parliament that is not overly partisan, a Parliament that will do the work of our country, a Parliament that is not going to be a rubber stamp because of the huge numbers that the NDC has, that would endorse everything that comes from the Jubilee House. And in the new look that we have in the leadership of Honorable Mama Yarga, I think we've heard him make a very clear statement about the fact that he's going to give space to the minority. Despite the dwindled numbers of the MPP, I think they have a very important role to play and they need to be given the space. So we want a leader or a leadership of the majority that will be tolerant, that will be open to criticism, that will be open to dialogue, and more importantly, that will be open to some negotiation, even if they can always have their way. So I think all this put together, for me, is what would give signal that we are serious about really resetting Ghana. I mean, if it becomes business as usual and we see a parliament that is always shouting in favor of the executive, then I guess this agenda for reset is in jeopardy.
I know that they all come with their own, individual strengths and weaknesses, but I want to focus on the gender bit for a second. You can talk about Mahama Yariga and his legal experience, George, his background in economic policies and all that. Nelson Dapiamokpo, we all know. But Comfort Doyo, that would be the Deputy Chief Whip. What unique perspective do you think she brings to the leadership now?
Well, I believe if you look at the entire front bench now, except for her, I think everybody is new. And again, also, I think we also have to remember inclusion is very, very important. In fact, I was even hoping that one of the women in parliament would be made one of the deputy speakers, but we didn't get that. Honorable Comfort Doyo's role, apart from the fact that, she has a lot of experience, having been part of the previous leadership, is the fact that she brings some continuity, especially perhaps to guide, all the other three men who are all new to this role, even if they are not new to parliament.
Thank you. Let's get into the studio. We'll circle back to you in a bit. Prof, what would be your initial reflection on these 5 members who are now the NDC's majority leadership in Parliament?
Well, thanks very much for that. Let me just put a caveat that I'm not a parliamentary, a politics student. And so usually I leave those spaces to my colleagues, especially Ali Jampo. They are very much expert in them. But let me say that I could perhaps hazard some kind of opinion. If you look at, those that are at the front for now, in terms of the NDC leadership you're talking about.
Yes, majority. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you look at them, Mama Yariga, fantastic guy. He's been, obviously a member of parliament for so long. And of course, his connection with, the outgone ones. I'm sure once you're in parliament, you'll be learning from them. They're your colleagues. You have opportunity to tap into their knowledge. Obviously, within the role, he would also have a wise counsel from the previous one. So I think that
given their political competency, and I choose the word political competency for a reason, the idea that they have been able to maintain a certain stable constituency within the party hierarchy itself, and of course the grassroots, I think would give them the needed expertise to steer the affairs of the party in Parliament. And of course, with that particular awareness of the position that they're in terms of the expectation of the country, on the wider political party NDC, as well as the parliamentary performance. If you listen to most of the conversations that they've been having, they said that the 8th Parliament was perhaps one of arguably the best parliament they could have.
Arguably.
Of course, that would mean that the leadership did something wrong, something right, all right? Then, of course, the expectation is higher for you, because if arguably was the best parliament, then your tenure shouldn't be the one that would be faulted as maybe
you shouldn't lower the standards.
Of course not. So I think that it places a lot of burden on them. But of course, they're in a very good hands because these are stellar politicians.
Okay, Ben.
I mean, interesting thoughts you've espoused so far, and we can just wish them the very best. In fact,
absolutely,
the likes of Roxanne Nelson, Dapia Mekpo got a baptism of fire yesterday because Afenyo-Markin was on them right from the start that there's no time to cool off. With your people, call your people to order. But that point, Dr. Draman, had to do with the majority side not being very present in Parliament, aka absenteeism. In fact, we have a sound on that. I want you to listen to it. That's the minority leader, and then we'll come and reflect on that.
There are empty seats. The chief whip should observe all the empty seats and advise us whether in the circumstance we can put a question. They should get the chamber populated. They say they are super majority. They should let their people come. Mr. Speaker, I'm advising them, with all these empty seats, we want them to be in so that we'll meet the necessary requirements of law so that we can put the question. We are ready to help you. We are ready.
And indeed, Mr. Speaker, on several occasions, civil society organizations, the media and the rest have had the occasion to discuss at great length the attendance of members of Parliament to the business of the House. Mr. Speaker, we are here this afternoon conducting extremely serious business. Mr. Speaker, we are here as an arm of government to exercise our constitutional mandate in supporting the President to constitute his government. And Mr. Speaker, indeed, we are here to approve 3 very important ministers: the Minister for Local Government, the Minister for Trade and Industry, the Minister for Gender. And Mr. Speaker, let me say that it is refreshing that all 3 of them are here. But the majority benches and seats are empty. Mr. Speaker, empty. Empty. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, on December, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, on December 7th, Mr. Speaker, on December 7th, Mr. Speaker, on December 7th, Ghanaians queued and voted for 275 members of Parliament. 183 of them are members of the majority side. They are not here. Mr. Speaker, they are not here. Mr. Speaker, look at the minority side. They are always happy. They are always happy to erroneously, Mr. Speaker, they are always happy to erroneously refer to us. They are always happy to erroneously refer to us as micro-minority. But Mr. Speaker, this minority will be in this house every day and conduct our business and perform our responsibility. Mr. Speaker, that is why I refer you to Order 64. Order 64, Rule 4 of our standing orders. Mr. Speaker, and before I even quote the said order, Mr. Speaker, this minority, Mr. Speaker, and I refer to this the minority of this 9th Parliament, the effective minority.
So you heard the Minority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, legislator for Efutu, and then you heard also the former Lands and Natural Resources Minister, John Abu Jinapo. All of them expressing, Samuel Abu Jinapo, I beg your pardon, also expressing their thoughts there. But Dr. Draman, if you look at the numbers, there seems to be a trend, especially for new MPs. They will be diligent, come to Parliament. After a while, they learn from some of the others, and then it will become today, maybe not be in there tomorrow. What do you see when it comes to this issue of absenteeism? And perchance, is the majority thinking we have so many numbers, so we can decide to show up when we choose? Your take. Dr. Draman.
I think this is very, very disturbing. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, please.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, I was saying that this is quite disturbing, especially starting at this, very early, days of the 9th Parliament. What the NDC would need to remember is that I think it's not just a question of numbers, because when you look at the history of our country, I think one of the effective parliaments that we've had was, I think, the second or third parliament, when minority in the House, and they put up a very, very kind of effective oversight and effective efforts to hold the government of the day accountable. And if the NDC thinks that they have the numbers, I think they have to go back and revise their notes, because I am seeing in this minority that they are leaving nothing to chance. And when you have a situation of a supermajority, I think what works for a minority is when they have citizens of the country behind them. And I think that is the direction the MPP is headed. Now, let me come to the issue of absenteeism. I would just appeal to the leadership of Parliament, because we've talked about this over and over and over. The time to crack the whip, I believe, is now. I hope with the new standing orders, and I hope with the leadership of the Right Honourable Speaker, something will be done about this. Otherwise, again, going back to the reset agenda is just going to be a mirage, because we would have the minority show up and the majority will be absent, particularly at this very important moment when you are approving ministers to lead a country that is on its knees. We are on our knees as a country in terms of the challenges that we face. And I think I can't just comprehend why, this kind of pictures you are showing us on the screen, that members of Parliament that we are paying to show up and work would not show up. Are they at the Jubilee House lobbying for positions, or where are they? Where exactly are they? I think that's a question that we need answered as Ghanaians.
And Doc, just stepping away from the absenteeism bit for a bit, we have approved 12 ministers so far. What's your thoughts on those approvals and the ones we are still waiting to see? What are your thoughts on the ministers who've been approved?
Thoughts in terms of the process? Well, I think His Excellency the President has made his choice. I think they are all, members of Parliament. We've seen them perform in the 8th Parliament and so on. Whether they will do same and perform in the various ministries that they are going to go, I think is another question. We saw that the process leading to their approval, in my opinion, has not been a rigorous process. We have a lot of challenges in our country leading to the massive kind of endorsement that Ghanaians gave the NDC. And we see at the appointments committee during confirmation hearings, a minority sometimes that gets distracted and focuses on issues that are not related to the nominees, i.e., the minority leader, takes the stage before Honorable Abuja and then, gets into an issue that took the committee about 2 hours or so, to get back to the main issue at stake. And you have a majority that often will hear, I don't have any questions for you, I endorse you. I find that, quite disturbing because, you can ask a question of a nominee to bring out the best of the person. Asking a question doesn't necessarily mean, the various sectors of our economy have serious challenges. So I get worried when I hear members of the majority side treating their colleagues with kids' gloves, saying, I don't have a question, I endorse you. Please, we have problems in this country, and I think the committee would have to really relook its approach to how these confirmations are unfolding. Having said that, I think we would only wish those who have been approved and sworn in the best, so that at least they can do the business of our country. And like Honorable Mama Yerga has said, their focus is going to be serving the Ghanaian people.
Doc, it appears the whole vetting process and approval is quite ceremonial, because there's never really been a time where any minister designate goes through the vetting process and didn't get approved, whether or not their responses were impressive. And I'm just wondering, should we be looking at strengthening that system so that we can actually prune those who are competent from the vetting committee? Should we be reviewing that process?
Yes, indeed. I think we need to strengthen that. Yes, we need to review that process, because the whole idea of, confirmation is, to, try to answer the basic question. Are these people of integrity? Can we trust them to be accountable when they are given the mandate and the resources that they will be given as ministers or public officers? And like you said, in the history of our country, it's almost as if once you go through, once the president nominates you, I think you are almost 90% sure that you get through. In the 8th Parliament, I think a lot of people criticize the NDC, and that was the first test that the NDC failed. That is the test of holding those who were nominated by His Excellency, the President at the time, holding them accountable. They had all kinds of issues about a lot of nominees, yet the nominees showed up before the committee and eventually get passed. So when you talk about the 8th Parliament, usually that's the low point that people will talk about. How Parliament, particularly the minority at the time, failed to ensure that those they had issues with never got the nod to be ministers. So this whole process would need to be taken a very serious look at, so that at least we know that when you are nominated by His Excellency the President, you have to make sure that you do your best, and Parliament also has to make sure that the best is done, so that we don't have this omnibus kind of approvals. Otherwise, like you said, it becomes ceremonial, and eventually nobody is going to take the process seriously.
Dr. Draman, just give me a minute more of your time. I want you to listen, and I know you followed. Afenyo-Markin, the minority leader, has called on President John Dramani Mahama to increase his number of ministers from 60. Here's why. Let's listen to it.
We have passed a law in this House. That law makes it mandatory to have a ministry for national security. I refer to Act 1030. We've had so many appointments, but we are yet to hear of ministry minister designate for national security. Only yesterday or so, we got this notice from Mr. President about the interior minister designate. Mr. Speaker, we will do our part, but they must also do their part so that we don't create certain impressions. Mr. Speaker, that said, the number of ministers, we are seeing Minister for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs. The political class of this country must be bold and own the political narrative. I will not criticize because I am in opposition. When we make mistakes, let's admit them and apologize. 60 ministers will not help your political cause. But when civil society comes out with the narrative, as if everything is done by the political class, instead of us boldly explaining to them the intricacies of politics, then we also fall for the trap and we make political commitment. I don't doubt the competence of Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim, but that huge ministry, local government, and chieftaincy, all these conflicts, the behind the scenes, negotiations for peace, and local governance. Mr. Speaker, I am not the president, but if I were to advise Mr. President, I would say, Mr. President, you can apologize to Ghanaians and say, look, you underestimated the thing. I think I need to engage more ministers. Because, Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow this.
And because we have to take leave of Dr. Draman, I'll just go to him briefly and then we'll have more time in the studio. Dr. Draman, you heard the minority leader there. This morning in the course of the news review, Andrew Appiah Dankwa, who is spokesperson for the Movement for Change, called this act by Afenyo-Markin mischief. We also know that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the former vice president, had promised in his campaign to have 50 ministers with the support of the minority leader. How do you react to his comments then, Dr. Draman?
Well, I mean, I don't know what his comments are born out of. I mean, I hear him talk about national security and then the huge portfolio given to Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim. Again, maybe I would also follow the path of the person that you quoted earlier to say, is it a political trap? So that His Excellency the President will go back on his word, and then the opposition would now have maybe a song to say, this is what they promised and this is what they are delivering. I think if you look at, what is happening around us and around the world, I mean, we can even really do with, less than 60 ministers. So really, I don't think that the leader has very much in terms of substance. Maybe it has political substance, but not otherwise. That would be my take.
Doc, right before you go, do you think the minority are doing too much already too soon? Especially the leader, the minority leader. Are they doing too much too soon?
Well, I think yes, and we want to see them do a lot more. Okay. I think, I want to see them hold the NDC, to a lot of fire. They are our hope in terms of making sure that this supermajority is kept in check. If we lose, the fire that is in them, then I think this country is in trouble, because we're already seeing signs that really, if we are not careful, we are not going to see any oversight from the NDC side. So the MPP, despite its small number in Parliament, I believe is our hope in terms of making sure that this huge supermajority is kept in check.
Dr. Draman, just a quick, interesting thought on the back of what Sweetie asked. In doing so, though, they probably will be helping to retain the NDC in power, will they not?
In doing what? In holding them to account?
In holding them to account. Of course, by holding them to account, they will keep them under pressure to do what they have promised. And by doing what they have promised, inadvertently, the NPP would be helping the NDC to stay in power. Wouldn't it be the case?
Well, I mean, it can be looked at in two ways, because we are going to see a minority, usually that is supposed to be the government in waiting, I mean, prove their worth. And in that process, even if NDC, I mean, does well, it will be at the instance of the work that the minority has done, and perhaps Ghanaians might reward them. If they don't do anything, that is even worse, because then Ghanaians will say, this cannot be a trusted government in waiting. So I think, I mean, they would rather err on the side of holding the government to account, because then they can endear themselves to all of us, and we would maybe have second thoughts when we go to the ballot, I mean, in the next 4 years.
All right. Dr. Draman, we are very grateful for your time.
I have to go, unfortunately.
Yes, and we're very grateful, in fact, for your time. That is Dr. Rashid Draman of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. And in the studio, Professor Kobby Mensah, we've discussed a whole lot. I'll let Sweetie usher you in, because there's a whole lot to digest.
Yeah, but I want to start from the same points. Are they doing too much, do you think? I mean, does it even lie in their hands to tell the president to apologize to Ghanaians? And
Firstly, I think that Afenyo probably must be careful before he creates a minority of one person. I mean, currently as we speak, he's the only image in your mind since this process has started. He's the only person you can see talking. And that is a very dangerous path to create for a political party in terms of imagery, all right? I mean, I'm a political brand person, so I can tell when you are too dominant, you sort of replaces the party's image with your image, and it becomes a one-man majority. You don't want that, right? So you should probably balance it. Let other people take the podium as opposed to he alone being the one speaking. And I think that it's a catch-22 council. I think it's a very deliberate attempt to get the president commit to what they want in order that they can bash them. All right, just like a former
so in other words,
president.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. I mean, former President Kufuor said, "I didn't know. If I knew, I wouldn't have said 88, etc." I mean, this is a political strategy, to get the president commit, as if you're advising, but you know what you're looking for. Immediately, President Mahama sees to that, the trust issues start beginning. I mean, we start, undermining, or we start undermining his positioning. So I don't think that they should buy into it. I don't think Mahama will buy into that.
And in any way, what's the locus? Because like I mentioned, his party's flag bearer in the last election had even 10 less.
Exactly. And that actually brings into the question. You were part of that particular campaign. He was at the center of Bawumia's campaign. If you had that perspective, and which you can't say you didn't have that because you've been in politics for so long, you've been an MP for so long, you have been in government, all right? So you absolutely understand the enormity of the job. You understand the complexity of the job. So at a time when Bawumia actually promised the 50, what did you say in chambers? Did you tell him that the complexity cannot allow you? Look, I had spoken to Jacob Echebilam, to blessed memory, I've spoken to Odoy Sykes, and they tell me on the campaign, sometimes the presidential candidate can make a promise and they go and say, but we haven't discussed this. So no, I have to cheer up the people, all right? There's that tendency. But when that happens, all right, do you then push it as a policy, or do you then tell them that, no, we can't proceed on this tangent, let's tone down on this?
This became a manifesto promise.
Exactly. So are you being honest or dishonest with Ghanaians? Because if you were honest, then you could have actually advised your candidates then that we can't do 50.
But
the same complexity.
Him, it could also be that he expressed his disapproval, but the bigger
and
party
he has to demonstrate.
To go with 50.
He has to demonstrate because Bawumia actually faced the same problem, all right? He said, in cabinet, I oppose this, I oppose that. Where is the evidence? From my training, what we do is leaking, all right? You could leak certain information through certain informal structures to demonstrate your position to a certain decisions that you think would look bad on you.
Yeah.
You never leaked? I mean, we don't know that you leaked.
Do you
because
think...
there was no leak, from cabinet.
Yeah.
So you were actually part and parcel of that particular decision. So we haven't had any leak that Afenyo had opposed to 50. Did you hear anything? No.
That I heard.
So you can't come in now and say, oh, due to the complexity. We didn't become complex in the last, few weeks. We've been complex.
Do you think this mischief, do you think he won when it comes to the appointments committee? Because it was the composure of Afenyo-Markin that brought the competence of Ahemfo under question. Do you think that the strategy of, maybe revealing the incompetencies or just, setting a trap for them to fail?
I don't think that he brought a certain incompetency of somebody else. I mean, if you are disruptive, it does not make the other person incompetent.
Okay.
I mean, people have their personalities.
So Afenyo is being
disruptive.
It's been disruptive, and it doesn't mean that the other guy is incompetent. I mean, we have our own personality. Some people are very outward. Some people are very, calm in nature, etc. I mean, at some point, people thought that Kufuor wasn't a good, public speaker. But it turned out to be his strength, isn't it? So you couldn't actually say that because the other guy is calmer and is able to, sort of speak within scope, means that he's incompetent. It's your disruption.
Okay.
So it depends on how you perceive.
Let me bring in the bit about letters that were sent out recently. This morning, there was some talk about that letters were being sent to people who had already resigned. I don't know whether you've caught a whiff of that. Any quick thoughts on that? Because some people feel, listen, you must show that you are very effective, efficient, sending letters to people who have resigned from the
I suppose it's purely public administration. Perhaps my deal would be better to tell, Dimbaole is a public administrator, so you can tell exactly what the nuances are. But I suppose they know better than we do, because some people might say that they've resigned, but there could be some other public administrative mechanisms that does not necessarily mean that because they have issued a letter of resignation, they've resigned. So maybe the administration knows something different that we do. And so they still have to go ahead by issuing the letter. And don't forget, those resignations, some of them, we haven't seen it as public, isn't it?
Right.
So we probably, or there could be a certain, symbolic, tone to it as well, that the public must know that you're no longer occupying this position.
In talking about letters, the Chief of Staff sent one round saying that everyone who was employed after 6th December, they should account for their name, their employee identification number. In a way, they want to understand what really
I fully agree.
There. You agree with that?
I fully agree. You see, the previous administration, just like in the past, do a lot of stuff, all right? They push in people at the later end so that they could actually seize the structures. Obviously, yeah, they're Ghanaians, they're supposed to, but a lot of people have been pushed into the system irregularly, all right?
And that increases your wage
of
burden
course.
as well.
So they have every right to actually audit that particular practice. I mean, people say don't do equalization, but if you go down 2016, you saw what MPP did, all right? Immediately they came, they just rubbished almost everybody that was employed, including somebody I know who was actually given an appointment letter to head an institution. They revoked it immediately, all right? So for me, those people actually condemn it. And I always say that stand on principle. When you stand on principle, you can't change it. What did you say then? And what are you saying now? Do you get it? We have so many people who are sycophants, we have so many people who are not principled.
There you have that letter actually on the screen with the different details in there. Request for information on payroll. And it talks about, in line with ongoing efforts to ensure the accuracy and integrity of government's payroll records under the John Mahama administration, I'm writing to request your assistance in providing information to staff who have been added to your institution's payroll since Saturday, the 7th of December 2024. That's the day of the inauguration. You are kindly requested to submit the following details for each staff member added with the specified period: full name, designation number or job title, employment identification number, if applicable, date of appointment, date added to payroll, and it goes on and on. But from where you sit, and it's signed by the Chief of Staff himself, Julius.
Yeah, I think that, you see, the country shouldn't leave these administrative things to politics, all right? We probably have to find a better way of doing this. Obviously, there are administrators who handle employment, who handle, dismissals, who handle all these things. Unfortunately, we have left it to the hands of politicians, and we have abused the system. And so politicians have to take these measures in order that they themselves will feel secure.
Two things. On the back of just mentioning the word abuse. Some would say maybe we should fetter governments so that if you've lost an election, in that window of about 3 weeks, 1 month, don't make appointments.
I think so.
That is what some people would say. But others too would quickly tell you that the Constitution gives power to the president. And until midnight of the 6th of January, he is still the president and he can make appointments. What do you think we can do about it?
Yeah, I agree. But there are some certain appointments that are purely administrative. All right. It shouldn't be the president in appointing. I don't believe that it should be the president appointing CEOs. Yeah. I mean, we have actually let this seem to the very ground. Very soon, I have always said that very soon we're going to have the military being replaced or being appointed, by a certain government. So you're going to have a whole military set going up, because you don't even have people who are manning toilets, sorry to say, actually being replaced because of a change of government. Why should it be like that? You see, so for me, I think that it is wrong for us to leave the system. But unfortunately, the system had come to stay. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. Otherwise, a certain government won't come in and say, submit to me list of people you have employed, all right? It wouldn't have happened like that. But we saw what MPP did in 2016. Very terrible experiences people went through. And so if the current administration is doing it, you have no justification. If you didn't question 2016, for you to question now, I think that perhaps, I'm hoping that by this president, certain administrative things could be put in place so that we can end it. But I don't have any trouble with them questioning and asking a certain documentation on those who were employed. I don't have any qualms about it because people did it and people were shot. I saw Yusuf, the sports minister, complaining that his house or whatever. And I'm saying, why are you complaining? When 2016, your own government did that. What did you say? On record, we didn't see you complain. Why are you now complaining?
Right.
You have to be principled. If you kept quiet those days, you have to keep quiet now.
Okay.
Unless we have a certain systems to put in place, because you can't change. You can't tell me that you change because you are the other side.
But something we're definitely not going to be quiet on is this new thing you've brought forward, applications and the new development. I mean, we celebrate you for that, sweetie. I'm sure you're as curious as I am about.
Yes, I wanted to jump the gun, but you take this and then I'll come back to wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Prof, so tell us a bit about your app. What is it?
Okay.
What does it seek to achieve? What's the end game?
Well, as a lecturer, I'm very much concerned about students' well-being, right, and their opportunities. Now, if you look at the admission processes in this country, people buy about 3-4 forms. Even when we were actually coming through, we also buy a lot of forms, all right? That gives a lot of pressure. It puts a lot of pressure on parents, especially those at the very lowest of incomes. And so I'm saying that, no, we have to put a stop to that. So I actually, through my marketing lenses, thought about a process that I could actually develop, a concept that I could develop to help parents, to help students, to be very realistic, and to also have a confidence in the application process. So what we're saying is that from SS1, every term, when you get your results, you can actually go into Admission Checker and put your results in and ask yourself, should I get this result in my final year and I want to do business administration, would I get this admission? The system will tell you, yes, based on your performance, you have 80%, 70% or 20% chance. If you have 20% chance, then you know that you are not likely to get your...
So the system has certain variables
that
will be used to measure...
We have actually developed algorithms, based on the requirements, about 70 universities and about 2,000 plus courses. All right, that the system work against.
Does it align with the school selection placement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
So immediately you know that your ward cannot get a course that you're looking for, then you have to let them prepare. Start improving.
So this even prevents you start knowing right from
exactly.
the start. And if you have to do more, you know.
Absolutely. So if you put in and it says, business administration, you have 90% chance, then you know that if you maintain this effort, obviously making sure that you can still do continuous improvement. Even if you had 100%, you know, those days in school, they say more room for improvement.
Yeah.
You know, then, but if you have a lower mark, then you know that you have to put in more. Some people are deceived by those days, you know, issues. For example, these days people think, if you got aggregate 15, 20, you can do nursing. I'm afraid no. In the University of Ghana, nursing is about aggregate 6 and 7. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. So
it means that if you get 15, if you get 10, you're not going to get in. But people still hold on to those days thinking that, 8, 10, maybe you can get that. You can't, you know. So if you use admission checker, it can tell you realistically what courses and what universities. And also we say that there are more universities. I mean, 70 plus universities, university colleges, technical universities, etc. So don't put too much pressure on some of the institutions that everybody wants to go. If you want to do medicine, for example, UHAS has a fantastic, you know, I mean, medicine is same standard because the human body is same standard. So every school that does medicine, you should expect that they have same standard, all right? So you can go to even the new ones like UHAS or UDS, and you'll be successful. So in admission checker, whilst Legon says, we don't have space, although you qualify, why don't you apply to UHAS, for example? So we're trying to help people to be realistic and to find opportunities where they think there are no opportunities. And that's why we developed that app, Admission Checker. And a lot of parents have actually experienced it and sent messages that it really helped them.
Is there a plan to integrate this into the schools? I mean,
I'm hoping to meet the Minister for Education and then tell him that, look, we can help the students
when he gets through,
to get prepared, you know. And I think it's a good thing that we have to innovate to solve our own problems. You know, we don't have to wait for foreigners.
But congratulations once more. It's a good initiative.
Thank you, Ben.
Yes, no, that's it for me. But I was talking about jumping the gun. There was a question I wanted to bring to your attention. You know that we have ministry PROs who are on government payroll, who are paid huge sums of money, and sometimes they even fall under the category of directors. So they have cars, some allowances, and all that. But you never really hear of them. Take the Ministry of Education, for example, the biggest budget that goes into that ministry. I have never heard of the PRO. Just yesterday it came up in the newsroom that there's actually a PRO.
Of course.
All we hear is Kwesi Kwarteng, who came in with a team, with the NPP's team. What does this mean for the business of government and how we're paying so much money for redundancies?
Yeah, I think that not only in the government sector, even the broader society, a lot of people, a lot of companies, CEOs are not even allowing the PR people, those who are equipped with the skills and expertise.
They are speaking themselves.
They're speaking themselves. I don't know why. And people think, it's because people think that talking, it's easy. It's a lived experience, all right? You know, people don't see. I tell people that, look, I cannot discuss geography with you or weather because do you hear people discussing weather? Because they don't think that it's an expertise they have. But people will discuss football and think that they're experts in coaching, right? Yeah. People will discuss politics and they think that they're experts in them. The same way people think that talking is easy, so they can talk. No, people...
there are a lot of people who feel, they are better suited to do what we...
Exactly.
They say it all the time.
That's the trap. Look, communication...
If I could, someday I would allow...
Exactly, but communication is a science. People go to school to learn that. And so if somebody has learned PR, don't be quick to speak as a CEO. Get your PR to speak because they understand the technicalities, the science behind, appealing, persuading, etc. They know crisis communication. The idea that you are CEO doesn't mean that in crisis you have to speak. No, that's why the PR is there. So you're right in observing that. Not only government, but majority of the society think that they can speak, and so they have actually always pushing the PR guys behind. Let the PR guys do their work. They can handle the situations better, and they can make you look good. You're supposed to come in when it's critical, for you to speak. But good observation.
Well,
I think the PRs should...
So the ministry should let the
PRs speak.
Well, maybe the government...
They should earn their pay.
They should end the pay. Yeah, I think I said it that way.
Absolutely.
His wages, as the Bible would say.
Yeah.
But it's been a refreshing
so
conversation. You don't have to respond to this. I had a message coming from Eric Ametokwame who says, "Good morning, Mr. Akakpo. Is it right for a government which has just taken over government with such heavy indebtedness to be saddled with more payroll burden without reference to to the new Minister of Finance, who is yet to take office. And I think I brought it up in the bit about, you know, last minute.
Last minute.
You know.
I suppose once you've been given the mandate, you should find a way of dealing with the problems that the country faces. So definitely they have, you know, the right to solve the issues. But of course, they also have to investigate and make sure that people who have been put in places illegally are actually dealt with.
All right. We'd like to say a big thank you to our guests this morning. We had Dr. Rashid Draman. He is with the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. We also had Associate Professor Kobby Mensah of the University of Ghana Business School. He is a marketing strategist. And before we take a breather and bring you, blunt thoughts, and the title today is The Baggage of the Past and the Promise of the Future, Navigating the Maze of What Is to Come. The baggage of the past and the promise of the future, navigating the maze of what is to come. You don't want to miss it because I'm going to give you some information that you don't know of this morning. But sweetie.
I was just going to say, I can't wait to hear you, Ben. You know, Benjamin. But right before we go, I do want to remind you to select a solar system from our various solar packages ranging from 30,000 Ghana cedis to 99,000 Ghana cedis. All our solar systems come with lithium-ion battery. So get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar power station, or a solar generator ranging from 1,000 watts to 20,000 watts. We also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment. Google Solar Mate Ghana to find us on both Facebook and on Instagram. How do you contact us? Solar Mate Ghana. Call us on 050-832-0470. Solar Mate Ghana is located at Adringano, East Legon. Solar Mate, we go everywhere. Please stay. There's so much more action coming your way, including Benjamin's Plant Thoughts on the AM show.
Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for me to serve you my blunt thoughts. It's going to be brief but incisive. And this morning, I'll be talking to you about the baggage of the past and the promise of the future, navigating the maze of what is to come. The baggage of the past, the promise of the future, navigating the maze of what is to come. And I'm going to be talking about, yes, what you see here. I'll talk about mining, I'll talk about finance, I'll talk about roads, and I'll cap it off with the numbers that we are seeing so far in terms of the president's appointments. But to kickstart matters, crucial point. And the other day, Professor Kweku Azan averted my mind to it. We know of Oro, but how about Opal? Operation Recover or Loot, yes, but how about Operation Prevent or Loot? Oro must go in hand with Opal. That is what Professor Kweku Azan is saying, and I fully support him. As we deal with what's already done, that is oral, let's also see to it that what is not yet done remains undone. That is the corruption that someone is thinking of. They can't do it in the first place because we put mechanisms in place to make it unattractive for people to even contemplate graft, aka stealing from the state. So as we do oral, I support oral in the right way. Let's also do Opal, Operation Prevent or Loot. Mariazie. Now let me come to my slides. It's shocking, isn't it? Because we've been talking about illegal mining and the effects, but isn't it shocking that even as we contemplate the recent skirmishes on Obuasi and others, that January 2025, we had complained about the number of licenses that had been given out by the Akufo-Addo administration, over 1,000. Guess what? In the window from January 1st to 6th, something interesting happened. But before I get there, how many licenses have been granted in January, just this month? 103. 103. Let that sink in. The small-scale licenses, 21, and we know what these do. Prospecting licenses, 8 of them. But it's the next slide that comes with the revelations. Next slide. Here we go. Now, licenses issued between The 1st to the 6th of January, that is before President Mahama was sworn in, 102. Out of the 103, I just pointed out, 103, right? 102 were given between the 1st and the 6th in 6 days. We gave out 102. And since that time, after January the 19th, we have 1 license so far by this current administration. Why within this window, 102? What happened? Only God knows. But me, I put the information out. You do whatever you want with it. Now, the Obuasi clash casualties makes for sad reading. One person, even one Ghanaian life is crucial. Do you realize how with the Americans and others, even if one person is caught up somewhere in some country, they do everything to get that one person out. And so if we are losing 9 people in this skirmish, yes, if the stories we are being told are true, if they fired on the military, that's sad. But could we have avoided a casualty of 9? And in any case, what is the truth of the matter? We are still waiting for, as the president has directed, the investigations into this to show us what exactly happened. Those in critical condition so far, 4 of them. And our hearts go out to the families of the deceased, but we also pray that the 4 make it so that the death toll doesn't rise. But then you look at the CDD on development in mining communities, right? They are saying, 1, there's weak governance in mineral revenue management. And it's true. The governance structures are weak. Poor development outcomes in mining communities. Go to Obuasi, go to Takwa, go to Akwetia, go to some of these places. Some of them, I'll not mention which because it tends to be stereotypes. They look like ghost towns. They don't look like a place where a great mining resource like gold or diamonds are mined. What's happening to CSR, corporate social responsibility? What's happening to developing these communities? In South Africa, you are held to ransom to do some things in these communities. What is happening here? Insufficient royalty transfers for community development, tied to point 2, and 4, limited community participation in mining royalty utilization. All of these are things that this administration will have to deal with. And of course, we voted them in to deal with them, so they will have to deal with them. Now, if you go to the next slide, moving away from mining, an area tied to mining, roads and highways. And we have Honorable Agboja in the fray. This is what he's been saying in front of the Appointments Committee. The MPP government is leaving a minimum of 113 billion Ghana cedis in commitments. That certificate unpaid as of today from the government of Ghana amounts to about 20 billion. And more worrying is that the interest on this is a staggering 113 million Ghana cedis. That is 665 million. That is the interest is 665 million on the 113 billion Ghana cedis due to the nature of the contracts. Why do I bring this up? Because, again, these certificates, when contractors come, of course, a lot of these contractors, what do? They go to a bank, get a pool of money. You've given me a contract. I execute the contract, get whatever I am paid. I get to pay off the bank, and the little I have left, well, little or more, I then use it to turn over and shore up my business and stay in business. If the government doesn't pay me, debt is accrued. And of course, these contracts also include clauses so that then you have an increment, right, on whatever principal has to be paid. And don't forget that they are also incurring debt at the bank. It's a vicious cycle. And we need to tackle it. We need to tame it. I wish the minister well in that regard, especially as he's now been sworn in. But staying there, the interest accrued on road sector debt is 375% annually. How can any country sustain this? 375%. It's unsustainable. It's like the ECG situation. If you go to the next slide, then you look at the controversy on the length of roads constructed. And some experts had always disputed some of the numbers that President Akufo-Addo and his team had been putting forward. What had they said? Francis Asenso-Boakye, who was Roads and Highways Minister right before, in the dying embers of the MPP's administration, he said 13,624 kilometers of road had been constructed or worked on. Governs Agboja, Roads and Highways Minister, says only 673 kilometers. Look at the difference. It's more than, let's say, almost 13,000 difference. But you see, in a country where we have the right structures, this wouldn't be a problem because it wouldn't be political. It would be that there are institutions in place, so if you lie, you can be exposed. But now, truth be told, whom do we believe? You decide. Next slide. Then you have Agboja once more. The principle is that you should spend more on the maintenance of your existing roads than building new roads. I agree here. We tend to want to do more. It's like Agenda 111. You've not dealt with Kolebu. You've not added on UGMC. Well, one thing was done there. But rather than shore up, we're always in a hurry to do something new. And what happens to the old that you've not even added up on or completed? Makes no sense. Now, it also says, per the records we have in terms of road maintenance, things have gone bad in the last 8 years. Well, Mr. Minister, now we can also look forward to you, and we hope you will live up to the mettle, because the roads are still bad. Now, the agenda for roads and highways, according to the ministry: completion of abandoned critical roads, check; implementation of electronic road tolls, check; addressing road sector debt, check; enhanced road maintenance. Like I said, Mr. Minister, we'll be following you keenly. But then you come to expenditure burden, wages, salaries, and social contributions. And this morning in the news review, I, together with my team, we were talking about it. How can you be spending 60% of what you get into your kitty on the public sector wages alone? Imagine it's a family, and for your family, 60% of the income you get maybe goes to just one end, or one person, and you are 10 in the family, and only one person consumes 60%. What happens to the rest of you? That's exactly what we are doing here. 17.1 billion Ghana cedis. Then you look at the expenditure burden ahead. Debt servicing obligations. We are looking at 184.7 billion Ghana cedis in the offing. And then transfers to energy producers. Mind you, there's still the situation with the independent power producers, aka IPPs. They are still in the corner. They are still owed debt. The energy sector debt alone is $3 billion, the equivalent of 45 billion plus Ghana cedis. It's not going anywhere. We have to solve the problem. The question is how. You look at that sector, transfers to energy producers, you are looking at 17.5 billion Ghana cedis. The OPPP, no, endorsement. Then purchases of goods and services, another 13 billion Ghana cedis. That's what we are looking at ahead. And that also means that the work of this administration has been cut out for them. No time for waste, no time for nonsense. Respectfully, no time for nonsense. Like, the time to start work was yesterday. We will play our part, bring to bear some of these, help out, and it's up to this administration to put the pedal to the metal and ensure that we all get to where we want to get to. But to conclude, I want to talk about the male-female ratio and all the conversations that have been going on. Gender representation in ministerial appointments, right? So far, 7 females. And mind you, again, when we talk about women, like we said in the news review, it shouldn't just be ministers. We should push for more women to state-owned enterprises, CEOs. We should push for more women on boards. We should push for more women. I don't hear people talk about this. MCEs and DCEs, it's woeful, the numbers of women there. We should push for more women there too, because they can even initiate development at the grassroots. But we tend to go ministers. And your ministers don't go. So 7 females so far, that accounts for 16.67%, almost 17%. And then 35 males, that accounts for 83.33%. But since the conversation has come up, and some people are creating the picture that, this and that, and why so few? Well, let's look at the data. What does it say? And this will be the very last one I look at. If you look at the trajectory since 1992, the share of women in parliament, and mind you, there's something else. From the 8th parliament to the 9th parliament, the share of women has actually dwindled, from what we gather, right? So if you look at it, the numbers of women have gone lower, and even in terms of the bracket, the proportion of them that would be factored into appointments, you know how that affects it. But in 1992, we had 8% of them in parliament. 1996, marginal increment, 9%. Same in 2000. Then in 2004, 11%. It wasn't bad. It fell again in 2008 to 9%. Rose back to 11% in 2012. Then we hit, at that time, a high of 14% in 2016. Then we hit another milestone, 15% in 2020. And now, where we are is another 15%, a little over 16%. If you look at 8% to 15%, you would say that's a 7 percentage point increment. But that is 1992 to 2024. We could do better. We could do like the Ethiopians have done. Parliament that is about 50% women. We can do much more, but it behoves the parties to create the mechanisms like they are doing so that women can pay less when they are filing, so that women can be encouraged to contest, because this environment is very aggressive, so that if a woman contests in a certain constituency and there's supposed to be a replacement, you field another woman so that we can have proper affirmative action. We don't need a bill before this can be done. The MPP and the NDC, you can do this, and the other parties. And we, as voters, must also come on board, because they can do all of this and field the women. If we don't vote for the women, they will not get there. Ghana for, you know me, it's up to the politicians and those in power to decide which way we go. We have the baggage of the past, yes, but there's a lot of promise for the future. How do we get there? Only God knows. My name is Benjamin Akako. Thank you for joining me for another hot, raw, undiluted, unadulterated installment of Blunt Thoughts. Stay with us. We still have a lot more action coming your way.
Hello, folks. It's Friday. That means we're bringing you E-Corner. And guess who's ready, seated majestically to take us away? Over to you, Noella. What's happening today?
A lot is happening. Thank you so much, Sweetie. Good morning, folks, and welcome to the soft side of life. I mean, kudos to Benjamin and Sweetie for an excellent hard work done. But we're keeping things exciting here on the E-Corner, where we dive deep into the vibrant intersection of arts, culture, and business. I'm Noella Karaniali, and for the next 15 minutes, we're concluding our exploration of a topic that blends creativity with commerce, theatre arts as a viable business. You're welcome back. It's E-Corner on your favorite AM show. And last week, we journeyed through the rich history and evolution of theatre arts, zooming in on Ghana's unique contributions to this timeless craft. Now, my guest, Chief Moomin, highlighted 3 key challenges facing the industry. That's content, marketing, and infrastructure, while calling on the private sector to set up, or I should say to step up and invest in building essential facilities like performing arts theatres. Now, today we're picking up from where we left off, digging deeper into these challenges and asking some big questions like, how do the numbers look for theatre in Ghana, and also are they compelling enough to attract investors, and what strategies can industry players adopt to make theatre a thriving business? And to help me unpack these questions is George Quaid, a communications professional. He's the CEO of Image Bureau. He's a playwright and theatre practitioner with several productions under his belt. Notable amongst them is Run for Your Wife, The Legend of Akusika, and Olarutimi's The Gods Are Not to Blame. But first, let's take a look back at some key insights from Chief Moomin to set the tone for our conversation.
I mean, I always see it as three major issues, right, or challenges: infrastructure, content, as well as marketing, which all boils down to, well, I guess, resources, right? The kind of theater we do in our part of the world, you know, you just run a play for like a weekend, you know. The investment that goes into pre-production is so much that the theater business model is that you're able to run it over time, you know, a couple of months, even years. Some productions have been running for 20 years, right? So that's how theater makes money. The more you are in the theater, the more people are paying to come and watch your productions, the more you make money. So.
Okay.
And quickly, the second one is content, right? You need to be able to develop content that is interesting, that is exciting, that can keep bringing people, you know, into the theater, right? And we've had at least proven that we can produce good content. And the last pillar is marketing. Now, no matter how good your content is, if you don't have the resources to market it, most people will not know about it, and most people will not be excited to come into the theater to see it, right? Here's the case: you don't even have enough resources to invest in the content. How much more marketing?
So, I mean, actually 3 things, but for the content and marketing, it is up to you, the creatives, not up to government? I guess the infrastructure is where you probably need the help of government. Is that right?
Even these, government always has an important role to play, but I actually see it as a role for the private sector, right? Because if you go to the developed, advanced, creative economies, it's not government that owns the theaters; it's private individuals who own the theaters, because it's also a business for them. Because then if they own the theater and they have a production running in that theater, they can make a cut from the ticket sales. So imagine if all of these people investing in so many real estate. Some people have 100 houses. Some of them are even lying there fallow and empty. Imagine if a private developer invests, about even 5 theaters across the country in some of the key markets, even if it's a 500-seater expandable to 1,000-seater plus, right? It means you can make a plan that, okay, I'm going to run a production. I'll take it from Accra to Kumasi, maybe to Takoradi, to Tamale, the economic hotspots, and then you are in business. You are talking about serious business.
So that was Chief Moomin last week. But let's get on Zoom and speak with my guest for today, George Quay. George, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nola. Good morning. How
Good morning to you. I'm awesome. Thanks for asking. So, you had your colleague, theatre practitioner, Chief Moomin. Last week, he cited, content creation, lack of infrastructure and marketing as some of his reasons, or some of his, the things that is affecting theatre in our country today. Do you agree with some of his points, or do you think there are other factors we should consider?
Well, let me start by giving out my condolences to the family of industry practitioner, brother and friend Albert Jackson Davis. I'm actually speaking from his funeral premises, happening now at the Holy Trinity Cathedral on the John Evans at Mills High Street. And I'm sure when you're done, you'd also make your way here. We're here all day. So deepest condolences to him. Right. Yes, Chief Moomin couldn't have said it any better. And he summed it all up by saying it's an issue of resources. I couldn't agree more. Resources has been a major challenge. And when we talk resources, it is not just the infrastructural resources. It is also resources in the areas of talent. When I talk talent, when it comes to theater, it is not just about those that are on the stage acting. We're also looking at those behind the scenes, the script, the writers, the producers, the sound suppliers, the makeup, the costume. It's a whole ecosystem.
Right.
It's a very, very tall value chain. And there's a bit of a dearth in that arena as well, because how many playwrights can you name at the moment? When we take out the Igboites, the few of us who are also trying, there aren't that many. But you'd be amazed to realize that the School of Performing Arts actually churns out a lot of playwrights annually. So the question is, where are all these people? You'd find them working in other spheres, other areas, because a lot of them do not see the theater space as profitable as some of us see it. The question is it profitable? And that's another conversation probably for another day, because you see, when you have a theater piece, you do not make money from your first run. Sometimes you may not even make money from your second, third, fourth runs. The Gods Are Not to Blame, for instance, had to run 13 times for it to break even.
Yeah.
1-3. And these 13 times, we needed to have full houses at every appearance for it to break even. 13. So imagine if you cannot find the venue to run 13 shows. The Legend of Akusika, the images you're playing now are from the Legend of Akusika, which ran 8 times before, and even that we still didn't break even, because the entire production cost us almost $1 million, and we barely made half of that, and so it's very difficult, because when you're putting these things together, sometimes you want to do something mind-blowing. It has to be spectacular, it has to be memorable, it has to give people a reason to want to come back. It must be repeatable, and its repeatability shouldn't just be in the aspect of performance. It should also be in the part of patronage. If you're going to do this 100 times, you should have a full house 100 times.
So George, if I get what you're saying right, the question isn't about content. It's not even about marketing. It's about patronage. Is that what it is?
You see, but patronage is driven by content and marketing. If the content is good, for instance, I always use the Gods Are Not to Blame as a reference point. When the Gods Are Not to Blame opened, it opened, I think, on the 1st and 2nd of December. And that was the plan. It was supposed to just run and end there. But those that came to see it became the main advertisers for it. They became the main voices for it. And the marketing professionals will tell you that there is no advertising better than word of mouth. So when they started making noise about it, people started asking questions about it. Is it running again? When is it running again? And we were fortunate enough to get an open date at the National Theatre. It was a weekday, all right. But people did come out to come see it. So we run again after 1st and 2nd of December, those 4 shows. We run again 17th, 18th and 19th of December. Then we run again 27th and 28th of December. Then we run again in March. So it was all due to the, calls for it, because people had seen it, they loved it. Imagine if people had seen it and didn't like it that much. So content is key. What you're churning out there must be good. It must be wanted. It must be loved. It must be appreciated. It must be mind-blowing. That is the only way you can get people to want to come see it again and again and again. We had something similar with the Legend of Akusika. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the venue. You understand? So that is another problem. I recall when we first staged Run for Your Wife, it was very well patronized. People loved it. But again, we couldn't find the slot to repeat it. We couldn't find the space because, again, we have only one national theater. And the other places that many may think and hold theater shows are not made for theater. So you may find a few challenges. You'll have a few challenges if you go there. See,
George, can you hear me? Hello, George?
I'm saying...
Okay, you went on for a bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. I'm saying, say you want to stage a play at, let's say, the conference center. The stage itself is not made for theater productions. The only stage in Ghana that has been built for purpose when it comes to theater is the National Theater. So it's unfortunate that that is the only one we have, and that is the only one we've had since God knows when, 1995. To date, it is not good. We need more, because now there are so many people. Look, Chief Moment has a show tonight. Mansa Musa, the Prelude, is running tonight at the National Theatre. It's a mind-blowing production. They've put in so much work. Why should it be just tonight?
All right, George, I mean, clearly, I think your thought also resonates with that of your colleague, Chief Moment. So, but now let's talk about the numbers, because obviously, for us to solve the problem, you would need investors to step in, and investors, what they care about is numbers. So per your experience, how is the theater industry performing financially? Are the numbers convincing enough for any investor at all to want to invest in a business like that?
At the moment, the numbers will not be convincing for an investor to step in because we don't have that repeatability. Like I said, theater is not like film. When a film opens, and it has a global opening. So there are theaters running it in China, theaters running it in Japan, theaters running it in the USA, in Europe, in other places, in parts of Africa. That opening night alone can gross a certain amount. So you can actually count your numbers instantly. You can make projections. But theater needs that repeated experience. People need to come see it again. Look, the Mousetrap ran for nearly 21 years in at the West End. When you go to South Africa, Umoja is still running. After God knows how many years, it is still running. You understand? When you try to book theaters in the UK now, I mean, we've been trying for a while now to take the gods are not to blame to the UK. Our biggest challenge right now is securing a theater, because the theaters have been booked. They don't book theaters for a weekend as we do here in Ghana. They book theaters. When they book it for months. There are theaters that have been booked. When you go to the Covent Gardens, all the theaters, there are about 9 theaters or so at the Covent Gardens, and these theaters have been booked. Some have been booked from February all the way till September. You understand? And it is not like they are running different plays. It is the same play. Harry Potter has been running for God knows how long. Pinocchio has been running for God knows how long. Cinderella has been running for God knows how long. The Mousetrap, The Witches, you name it. These plays have been running for decades, and they are still running because they know that is where you get your revenue from. You cannot just put, because you see, when you're putting a play together, Noella, here are the cost areas: rehearsals, rehearsals can run for like 3-4 months. And within those 3-4 months, depending on your cast size, let's say you're working with 200 people, you're feeding these 200 people every day. You're refreshing them. You've got to have water. Sometimes you've got to give them transport. And then when you come to performance day, the performance day itself also comes with its own cost. And then you have publicity. You've got your billboards, you've got your radio, you've got your television, you've got your press, you've got your online, and all those things. They're very, very, very expensive. If you're thinking, let's assume you've invested $1 million into a production. And what you need to understand is that when somebody says, I've invested $1 million into the production, take out the performance days, because on performance days, your only cost would be probably venue and feeding of your cast and crew. Every other thing has gone into that $1 million. This includes costume, it includes makeup, because you'd have made all these preparations already. So if you've spent $1 million to produce a play like The Legend of Akusika, and you've gone to the National Theatre to stage it, and you have only one weekend, and in that weekend you can do at most 4 shows, doing 2 shows each day, 2 shows, 4 p.m., 8 p.m. Saturday, 4 p.m., 8 p.m. Sunday. The National Theatre has a total seating capacity of 1,492 seats. 1,492 seats, maybe you're getting some support from sponsors, so you take out about 200 seats. So give and take, you have 1,200 seats to sell. Nobody has been able to sell a play in this country.
Sorry to catch you.
Yes.
Sorry to catch you here. You spoke at length of some of the problems, but I'm just wondering, if the numbers are not that encouraging, what then is motivating us to keep, doing these plays? And what are we doing in the interim about the infrastructures? Because if obviously investors are not doing anything about it, if government is not doing anything about it, what are you and your colleague, theatre practitioners also doing to probably also invest in infrastructure? Because if nobody is coming to help you and you're also passionate about your craft, why don't you also invest in that in that as well?
Yeah, building a theatre infrastructure is not a walk in the park. We're doing our bit. We're speaking to many people locally and internationally. We've been talking, and some of them have committed to help. As you can see, we've been trying. I'm sure some time ago you heard that I had won a $2 million contract from a businessman in Ghana. That $2 million contract is actually supposed to go into a theatre infrastructure. The biggest challenge we've had is the space to put that infrastructure, that facility. Okay. You understand? So we've been speaking to people, we've been knocking on doors. But what is key, what is important is that we do not give up, we do not stop despite the challenges. And we've been fortunate to have some organizations in corporate Ghana support us. Kudos to organizations like Stanbic Bank, Mr. Malko Afajino, who has always believed in the arts. They've supported us. We know what the people, Mr. Joseph Adoyebo and his team at Total Family Health Organization, Ebony Condoms, have done for the space. We know what other organizations do, companies like Telecel, like MTN, and all the others that support us in diverse ways. Gino Tomato Mix and all those that support Uncle White, GCB Bank. We can only hope and pray for more, because at this rate, if they don't continue to support us the way they do, and let me not forget organizations like the Multimedia Group as well. Right. I mean, the partnerships that some of us have with the Multimedia Group, Joy FM, Hits FM, Joy News TV, Joy Prime, and all the help that you give us. If you stop giving us this kind of support, theatre in Ghana will collapse, because without you, we cannot do it. Because if we say we are going to do it based on our resources alone, it will collapse. So it is all we can do now. Continue, and pray that eventually we have a government that actually appreciates and understands the art enough to be able to expand the infrastructure. The Akufo-Addo government started with some amphitheaters. They couldn't finish them. We pray that this administration is able to complete them and actually put up a bit more. I hear President John Dramani Mahama promised a theatre auditorium in the Ashanti region. We pray that it happens so that we can have more, so that we can do more.
George, my final question.
Really, Noella, we cannot stop.
Right. My final question to you, in your capacity as a communications professional, I want us to explore the role of communication in marketing theatre. What do you think of that? I mean, how can we really use communication to and public relations, obviously, to also market theatre?
Well, we take it from the story point of view. It is important to choose stories that are relevant, that speak to the times. That way, when you're dialing up your communication strategy, you're connecting to something that is relevant. That doesn't mean that we should neglect those legendary plays that have been scripted, like The Gods Are Not to Blame, The Legend of Akusika, the plays by Willie Soyinka, like Death and the Ken Salzman, which may not have a direct correlation to matters that are happening today, but it doesn't mean we should stop. We can only connect with media organizations and be more vocal in our advocacy for theater and its appreciation. And then we also need to change our communications and PR strategies. We need to go beyond radio and television to probably go knock on doors, go into organizations, sell bulk tickets to companies, and pray that they patronize. And when they come, we need to treat them special and have follow-up strategies to continue engaging them. Like I said, Noella, we're here to stay. We cannot stop, so we need to do all we can to ensure that it grows. And part of the communications is exactly what we are doing this morning. I've got 3 funerals on my hands today, but of course, I know the importance of this conversation, so I needed to make time. So I pray we are all able to make time to continue the talk, and I want to thank you for this initiative. I pray other people in the media and creative space, in the art space, stop focusing on useless issues like my girlfriend has left me and this one has gone to take this one's wife and whatever, and we focus on relevant matters like this one, because it is the only way we can change and grow the industry.
George, thank you so much. You've been yourself absolutely this morning. Is there anything Image Bureau is doing this weekend we should be looking out for?
You recall last December we didn't stage any commercial play. We did something with the prison, the Nsawam Female Correctional Facility.
Right.
Well, we are bringing that play to the National Theatre in March this year. So patrons should look out for the 29th and 30th of March, 4 p.m., 8 p.m. each day at the National Theatre. Home Beyond the Walls goes live, and we have expanded it, we have changed it. And I have told Nashoko that by the time we finish this play, we may be summoned to Parliament to answer a few questions, because what we have done with the play will raise eyebrows and we'll ask questions. Noella, have you ever wondered why is it that when a president is leaving office, that is when they release a few prisoners? Is it because they want to release some of their politically connected friends who supported them? Or they want to just release some criminals for the next government to deal with? Have you ever thought about it?
I guess it's a
Why that time? Why is it that when a president is inaugurated on 7th of January, your first act of showing love to your people on 8th of January, why don't you release prisoners so you deal with them?
I guess that's something to
give it a
think
thought and
about.
see.
Definitely, I will.
When you come to the National Theatre, A Home Beyond the Walls answers these and a lot more. And we've got some strong themes on this LGBT issue in there, to sign or not to sign. A Home Beyond the Walls is going to shake tables. It's going to cause a lot of trouble in Ghana, and everybody should see it. We'll give the ticket information soon, so you can grab your tickets and come join us. And the good part is that part of the revenue is going to establish some accounts for some of the prison inmates, and also to help build a rehabilitation center at the Nsawam Female Prison. So it's still in the line of corporate social responsibility.
Well, kudos to you, George.
We believe patrons are going to love it.
Kudos to you, George, and of course the team. I'm very much used to trouble when it comes to you, so I'm looking forward to the trouble you start again this time around. But thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
It's been phenomenal as per usual. And that's it. That's how we draw the curtains on E-Corner right here on your favorite AM show. Of course, the show isn't done. We've got Sweetie and Benjamin coming up with some amazing interviews as well. Until then, I'm Noella Karinyali, and next week Friday, I'll see you with some more exciting content. Take care.
Closing the gap has become very significant as the number of children needing palliative care keep increasing. This led to the training of 128 health professionals from 59 facilities across the country's 16 regions to provide the specialized care. Dr. Ama Pinaman Boateng-Desu outlines the dire consequences of not having enough palliative care health professionals.
Today we have gathered here to celebrate the accomplishments of the Children's Palliative Care Project. Not only to celebrate the accomplishments, but also to reflect on the impact and chart the path forward for sustaining and expanding pediatric palliative care in Ghana. So in the year 2022, there was a needs assessment which was conducted on children's palliative care. We already know the global figure of children in need of palliative care at about 19 million. But then in Ghana, we didn't know the exact gap. So there was a needs assessment to give us a clear idea what the situation was like in terms of children's palliative care. And as part of the needs assessment, some of the recommendations were that there was a knowledge gap of healthcare professionals and children's palliative care. And also there was lack of training or specialist training for children's palliative care and other policies. So after the needs assessment, there was an opportunity to apply for a grant, which together, World Child Council, together with the International Children's Palliative Care, put together this application and we were successful. So the incidence of non-communicable diseases is going up. And because of that, there is a need for palliative care services. Palliative care services, some of the people had their view that it was only for the dying. But throughout this project, we have been able to change ideas to help people know that palliative care is not for the dying. Palliative care, right from the time of diagnosis through the continuum of care, children need palliative care services. So what we are
Welcome back on the AM show, and from our E-Corner with Noella Karinyali, we head back. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation with George Quay. But before we take your phone calls, get your phones ready. I'm here with Sweetie Abochi. Let us celebrate an 11-year-old. Happy 11th birthday to Sean Mitchell Ni Odate Bartlett Vanderpool of Musua Campus, Cornerstone International. May you grow to fulfill the purpose of God for your life. With lots of love from Daddy, Mommy, and Kayla, your little sister. So there he is. Enjoy yourself, your 11th birthday. Sean Mitchell Ni Odate Bartlett Vanderpool of Musua Campus, Cornerstone International. Hey, your name's plenty like my own. Happy birthday to you, yeah? But you can call that number, 0302-211-691. Sweetie Abochi.
Yes.
Are you going to be giving your children names like as long as this?
I have too many names, so I will not repeat the same crime. I think I'll just...
How many do you have? I have, I think, 7. I only
Actually,
use 2.
let's do this. Tell us your full name.
I'm not telling you this. I am not doing that.
I can tell you. I mean, you forget it by tomorrow, but I can tell you. My full name, Christiana, don't get excited. Christiana...
what did you say? What's the first name?
Christiana.
Christiana.
Sweetie.
Okay.
Ajo, Edo, Maukwenya, Abochi. So I have 5 names.
Okay, not
so
bad.
That's why I like to stick to Sweetie, because of a sweetie. But call us and let's get interactive. This is the Have Your Say segment where you get to share your thoughts with us. We've been doing the talking since Monday to Friday. We talk. This is the part where you get into the conversation and tell us what's on your mind. There's a lot happening in the country, and it'll be lovely to hear from you. Benjamin, there's also another birthday shout out to someone in the newsroom. Whose birthday is it?
Hey. You'd have to alert me because that was what we did actually. Oh yes, that was what.
I thought you said Gifty's birthday.
No, it was her recommendation for us.
We have a caller on the phone. Divine from Germany. Hi, Divine. Good morning, SB Gates.
Good. Mir geht gut, danke. Und bei euch?
Ja, ich bin super. Und du, Ben? Wie geht's?
Ich bin super. Sehr super.
Sehr super. That is good. Yeah, Divine, what's up?
Yeah, also. Yeah, you begin with, I would say, this is my first get-to in the year. It's really a task to get into the phone lines, but I think, my first get-to in the year. I would use the opportunity to wish you a very happy new year. And to get to also the issue, I would want to talk on the initial conversation you had with the gentleman about the school.
The payroll?
App. I think, exactly, about the app. I think we have something like that here, which really is actually dedicated to foreign students who would be studying in Germany, and it's sort of an agency where you would they are actually mandated to recruit and enroll for the universities, foreign students actually.
The app, right?
Germany. And yeah, it really facilitates and enhances the procedure much, and you barely do so much going about the process with the registrations and stuff like that at the university.
Right.
So it's a good call, and I think it's laudable. The Ghanaians should really accept it and improve on it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thirdly, Thirdly, I wish a very good day and all the best for for the information you're sending out to us. We are grateful.
Thank you so much, Divine, for calling us all the way from Germany. And Benjamin, that's the,
Yeah.
Right, okay.
You can tell there's something going on in the studio. It's our own in-house secret. But you can also call that number 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. It's on your screens. Call us. Let's know what's on your mind. More than 60 ministers, do you think?
Oh, I think he can do it. The way that...
More than 60?
No, less than 60. I think that they've defended the 60 so much that they cannot afford to go beyond it. It would not go well for them. But we do have another caller online. Good morning. You're live on the AM show. What's on your mind?
Yes, please. Can you remind me about your slogan? Joy News is having some slogans.
We are independent, fearless, and credible.
So that is my concern about. I have a concern with regards to your slogan. You see, you have a chance of meeting our top politicians, and the questions we expect you to ask on our behalf, you don't ask them. One is about immigration. Immigration is an issue in Ghana. You come to Ghana, you go to the villages and cottages. We have a lot of Nigerian girls doing prostitution. It's illegal in the country. Nobody is talking about it. We see, it seems we are okay with that. You come back to our market, retailing. The Nigerians are everywhere doing retailing. They don't even pay tax. They do retailing. Nobody is talking about it. That is one. So if you are fearless, what stops you from asking this question?
I missed your name. What's your name?
Let's go back to, let me go to Galamsey. You see, if I get a chance to rule Ghana for 3 months, what I will do to stop Galamsey is to stop all form of money. All form of money should be stopped in the country. We have peace.
Thank you so much for calling.
We didn't catch your name, though.
Yeah.
Can you share your name with us? Okay. It doesn't appear he wanted to share.
I take exception to
twice.
Benjamin. I know we have to just let people call us and tell us what's on their mind.
It's their opinion.
I take exception to you calling and telling us that we are not as independent, fearless, and credible as we claim to be, simply because there's a story you think that we haven't shined, light on. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the definition of independence. We choose what we give our attention to, and it's also about what's happening in the country, what really needs to be prioritized over the other. But thank you for calling.
His concerns are also valid, and these are issues that definitely, one thing is you can't talk about everything all the time. And sometimes someone may miss that, oh, you spoke about this yesterday. The person is watching you today, and the assumption is that maybe you've not done this. But we respect everybody's opinion.
Absolutely.
And we will try. We will try as far as is humanly possible to do it. Let me celebrate one more time Sean Mitchell Ni Odate Bartlett Vanderpoy of Musua Campus, Cornerstone International. Happy birthday to you. And you have the final word. Today, by the way, I've not said, very beautiful outfit.
Thank you. If you had missed it, Benjamin would have fought with you. Thank you so much for staying with us throughout the week. I'm Sweetie Aboichi, and I love doing this with Mr. Kakbu.
Benjamin Akakpo is my name. I celebrate Zero Africa for always clothing me on a Friday. But this is time for us to say bye-bye. Have a wonderful weekend. Joy News Desk is up next. Expect some vetting appointments committee business. Yeah. But we go day here.
And we'll see you on Monday. Oh, it's my weekend shift. I'll see you tomorrow.